Mushoku Tensei Vol10 by Rifujin Namadanat, cast by RTL Studio. If you are interested in creating your own audio drama like this, please visit rtl.ai and use promotion code RTL to activate your account. Now, enjoy the story. Chapter 1. Backing. I must prove my love to Sylphie, I thought as I looked at the red stain left on the bedsheets. Sylphie had given me something precious, and now it was my turn. I would do as she wished of me. This, I pledged as I used a knife to cut out the stain left on the fabric. The problem was, Sylphie rarely voiced her feelings. I could tell she wanted to be with me, but she probably wouldn't say it explicitly. Perhaps it had something to do with her being Princess Ariel's bodyguard. Should I talk to the princess about it? Preoccupied with those thoughts, I took the scrap of cloth I'd excised from the bed sheets, put it into a small box I created with earth magic, and placed that inside my altar. Then I put my hands together in prayer. Finally, I felt human again. The day I became whole again was also the day of our once-a-month homeroom session. Walking on air, I parted ways with Sylphie, who was walking slightly bow-legged, and peeked into the classroom. Inside were Zenoba, Julie, Linnea, Persina, and finally Cliff. As usual, Nanahoshi was nowhere to be seen.
Good morning, Master.
Good morning, Grandmaster.
Zenoba and Julie greeted me as soon as they saw me. It hit me then that Julie was pretty cute. She would be 7 this year still, just a child, but already cute, with her orange hair that curled outward at the ends. I patted her head. She looked at me in surprise, but immediately lowered her gaze and trembled. It seemed she was still afraid of me. It wasn't like I was going to eat her or anything. Good morning, Zenoba. Julie. As soon as I greeted them in return, Zenoba tilted his head with an audible, Then he asked,
Master, did something good happen to you?
What? So he'd noticed. Zenoba always expressed concern for me, so I wanted to share the good news as soon as possible. However, while it was fine to announce that my impotence had been cured, I'd be screwed if anyone asked me how it happened. I couldn't reveal Sylphie's true identity after all. I took a seat as I pondered the matter.
Yo, boss.
Morning! Nom!
Linnea and Persina took their seats as usual, Linnea popping her toned, youthful leg atop her desk, and Persina with her uniform so tight against her curves it threatened to burst as she munched away on a dried scrap of meat. I thought about how I'd touched the bounties of their chests, slipped off their soaked underwear, and peeked at the promised land that lay beneath. Suddenly, the two of them looked cuter.
Mew? Fuck!
They covered their noses when I approached. Huh? That was kind of a shock. It was probably that scent they were always talking about, the scent of arousal. I was finally back in business after several long years, so the smell was probably intense.
What should we do? Looks like the boss can't control himself anymore.
I thought he wasn't working down there, Mew.
It must be my overwhelming charm. I'm such a sinful girl.
Then you be his prey? Persina, Mew, leave our village to me, Mew.
No. Maybe it's actually you that he's after, Linnea.
But if you become boss's woman, you could take control of the entire world. You know, Mew, you could have a daily meat buffet. Mew.
I guess I have no choice then. I have to do it to protect you.
Persina steeled herself after this bizarre exchange and approached me. She batted her eyelashes adorably and hefted her breasts to make them more prominent.
Hee! Want you to love on me. Ouch!
I gave her a hand chop to the head. What the heck was that, hee? Was she trying to make a fool of me? Just take a seat. I'm not going to touch either one of you. Persina lifted her hands protectively over her head and, with her tail tucked between her legs, took a seat beside me. It was rare for her to come within touching distance of me. Linnea, on the other hand, crept to a nearby seat that was just beyond my reach. She was surprisingly guarded. This was the opposite of their usual behavior.
Rudeus, what's wrong? You seem different than usual.
Apparently, it was true what they said about how having sex changed men. Though it wasn't like this was my first time. Different in what way?
Almost like you're overflowing with confidence? That's how it seems, I guess?
I glanced at Zenoba, who nodded in agreement. Confidence, huh? Come to think of it, the man god had said something about reclaiming my confidence as a man. So this was what he was referring to? I didn't really think I felt more confident than usual, though. Well, everyone, thank you for everything you've done for me. I can't get into the details, but my illness has finally been cured. My declaration drew some oohs from the crowd. Zenoba nodded with a look of satisfaction, and Cliff patted me on the shoulder. Linnea and Persenna exchanged glances, while Julie just tilted her head in confusion.
Indeed. Congratulations, Master.
Congrats, Mew!
They were lined up around me and applauding for some reason. True, it was a special occasion, but it was still kind of embarrassing. Almost like the last episode of a certain TV anime series. Maybe the order in which they'd congratulated me was the order they were going to die.
But if Boss has been cured, that spells trouble, Mew. The chastity of all female students is in peril now, Mew.
Don't get too close to him unless you want to wind up pregnant.
How rude. I'm a gentleman. And I wasn't going to put my hands on anyone other than Sylphie, thank you very much. Once homeroom was over, I headed to the staff room to sign up for supplementary lessons. I wanted to make up for the time I took off for our trip the other day. There was a chill in the air as I entered.
Mr. Rudeus, did something happen?
I guess it really did seem like something had changed in me. It was a bit embarrassing, to tell the truth. A problem I've been preoccupied with for 3 years has finally been resolved. I feel relieved now, that's all.
Oh, really? Glad to hear. In that case, are you thinking of leaving the university?
Huh? Thinking about it, he had a point. I'd enrolled here with the goal of curing my impotence. Now that that was done, it might be a good idea to head for Begarit to reunite with my family. But a lot had happened this past year. I've been reunited with Zenoba and we'd adopted Julie. I've become friends with Linnea and Persina and also formed a bond with Cliff. Then there was Nanahoshi, the girl from my previous world who'd been transported here. I had a feeling our meeting wasn't coincidence. The man god's real objective might even have been to bring me here so I could meet Nanahoshi, with Sylphie as just the icing on the cake. Of course, Sylphie was what mattered most to me. As long as she stayed here, so would I. A bodyguard to the princess was bound to encounter danger, and while I didn't have much to offer, I wanted to protect her with all I had. Princess Ariel was currently in her 5th year. She would likely stay until graduation, but I wondered what she had planned after that. If she meant to return to the Asura kingdom, would it be right for me to accompany them? Now that my illness was cured, I felt like I should touch base with Paul before I went running off across the land. I'd been periodically sending him letters since enrolling here. I had no way of knowing if any had made it to him, but if even one had, and he responded, I'd miss his reply if I left the university. So I'd wait for now. At the very least, I'd stay in this city until I received a response from Paul. No, I'm not sure if I'll stay all the way to graduation, but I'll be continuing here as a student for the time being.
Oh, really? Glad to hear.
I couldn't tell if that smile meant he was happy or not. Even though my impotence had been cured, Nanahoshi took no notice. We didn't converse much, so maybe she didn't really pay attention to me. Even when we did talk, I often felt the generational gap between us. One time I brought up the subject of a certain junior high school girl who punished people in the name of the moon. I was convinced Nanahoshi would recognize the reference, but she only tilted her head at me as if to say, "What the heck are you talking about?" Apparently, kids these days had never heard of Sailor Moon. Nanahoshi had even been quite the avid reader of manga and light novels, apparently. I asked her if she knew the show where characters gather 7 Dragon Balls, and she said she had heard of that one. In our previous world, she had been 17 and I'd been 34. That made me twice her age. She'd also come to this world 10 years after I did, so our cumulative ages were even further apart now. There was nothing I could do about it. It really was just a generation gap. As for not knowing Sailor Moon, that might just be a given considering the show's air dates on television. Still, it took me aback. Perhaps it was this lack of common ground that led the following question to slip out my mouth. Miss Nanahoshi, what would you want from a person if you were to date them? Her hand slipped badly. She crumpled up the paper she'd been scribbling on and tossed it.
What's this all of a sudden? Talking about love?
Something like that.
In case I haven't made this clear, I want to get home as soon as possible. Could you take this seriously? You're always chattering. We'd get more done if you'd shut up and move your hands instead of your mouth.
In spite of what she said, Nanahoshi didn't hate idle banter. In fact, she'd been perfectly open to a little chatting here and there as we worked, as long as it was kept at a reasonable level. The fact that she'd responded like that could only mean one thing. Does that mean you're one of those people? Someone with no romantic experiences?
Shush! Even I have been in love before, although we fought and that was the end.
Come to think of it, hadn't she been in the midst of a lover's quarrel when she was summoned here? I wasn't sure whether she loved only one of her suitors, or if she was starring in her own reverse harem, but irrespective of whether she intended to apologize or continue their fight, she still had to go home. In fact, now that I thought about it, there was a high possibility that those other two had been transported here as well. But I'd heard no rumors of people like that outside of Nanahoshi, so it's equally possible they hadn't. Then again, the likelihood of survival after being thrown into this world all alone and mannerless would be… No, I shouldn't say that. Perhaps Nanahoshi had already made those calculations, based on how lucky she had been to make it this far. And what would happen to someone if they weren't so lucky? Nanahoshi's lips hardened into a frown as she mumbled.
It's enough if the person you like just stays by your side.
It sounded like she was having a tough time. I shouldn't have asked. It was lunch break, but I didn't go to the cafeteria. I had business elsewhere today specifically, in the student council room. If I was going to be in a relationship with Sylphie for real, I had to let Luke and the princess know. They'd worked to get the two of us together, so in a sense, they'd already approved of our relationship. Still, I wanted to make my intent clear. I made my way to the top floor of the main building, where there stood a somewhat fancy door chiseled with the words, Student Council Room. I knocked.
Who's there?
Rudeus Greyrat. I have a certain matter I'd like to discuss. After a brief silence, I could hear the panicked clamor of footsteps. Well, I hadn't made an appointment, after all. Maybe that was my bad.
Enter.
At Luke's slightly flustered command, I opened the door and strode in. Princess Ariel sat atop an expensive-looking chair, her beautiful blonde hair braided behind her head. Although she was obviously gorgeous, her body was quite average for her age. She had the same amount of muscle as any other girl, with breasts that were neither large nor small. Sylphie, with her sunglasses on, stood at attention beside the princess. She looked very dignified when she was working, and dapper, almost like a military officer. The shy crybaby was nowhere to be seen, nor was the sweet, slightly childish girl I was used to. She seemed almost cold, or perhaps cool. It made sense. If this was the image they wanted Fitz to project, then it was better for Sylphie to stay silent. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. My name is Rudeus Greyrat. I performed the noble's bow, took a knee before her, and lowered my head. I hadn't learned the proper etiquette to use when greeting royalty, but this was probably adequate.
This isn't the royal palace. We are both just students here. Please raise your head.
I lifted my head at her request. I didn't want to risk embarrassing Sylphie, however, so I remained kneeling. It would be wise to remain humble in front of my partner's boss.
So, what brings someone as widely renowned throughout this school as you, Master Rudeus, before me today?
I could feel my brain tingling as I listened to her voice. It was pleasant. This was what people called charisma, wasn't it? Or perhaps she was a blessed child as well. I could easily believe there was a blessed child whose voice was like magic that mesmerized the listener. I'm sure Sylphiette has already told you quite a bit. I came here in hopes of discussing the matter with you further. Princess Ariel wore a serious expression. Although she'd retreated to the university, She apparently hadn't given up on the throne. At least, that had to be why she was taking such steps to establish connections with powerful people in her time here. Sylphie cured my illness. I heard that you assisted her, Your Highness. So if you should find yourself in need of my aid, please don't hesitate to ask it of me. Ariel slowly digested those words. Then she glanced over at Luke, who nodded before saying,
I thought you were avoiding the power struggles of Asuran nobles.
It's true that I have no desire to get caught in the midst of political squabbling. If someone I care about is involved, however, that changes things. I looked towards Sylphie after I said that. Her cheeks color. I can't stand around while she might be in danger.
Aha.
Ariel looked surprised. So did Luke. Had I said something strange?
You harbor no fondness for the Nodos, the family your father ran away from, or for the Bereas who ordered you around.
I think it unfortunate that Lord Saros was executed, but other than that, not particularly. Something about this conversation wasn't right. Ah, wait, had they assumed I hated the Boreas family? That wasn't the case at all. They'd treated me very well, and I owed them a debt of gratitude. Well, Eris had abandoned me, but that was a different issue. Although, Master Luke seems to dislike me.
That's because you're a thick-headed idiot who doesn't understand how girls feel.
I won't argue that. Self-deprecating, after all, I hadn't even realized Sylphie was a girl for a whole year. I had nothing to say in my defense of my thick-headedness.
And you're a piece of shit who toys with girls' feelings, Luke.
That was a surprise, and unexpectedly harsh of her to say. Or was it just that she only acted shy around me? Luke and Sylphie had been comrades for the past 6 years, which meant Luke had spent more time with her than I had. That might be why she felt comfortable enough around him to not mince her words. That made me a little jealous, to tell the truth. I wondered if she'd eventually reach that level of comfort with me.
What, so even though you don't have a shred of sex appeal, you're going to take the girl's side?
I do too have sex appeal. Rudy thanked me, after all. Right, Rudy?
I didn't mind hopping into their comic routine long enough to say, and that's all, folks. But I felt a little awkward about doing that in front of Princess Ariel. I glanced at her, suddenly realizing that she had breadcrumbs around her lips. She must have been in the middle of lunch when I arrived.
Please be quiet, both of you.
Sylphie and Luke went silent. I got the sense this was a familiar sort of exchange for them both.
Rudeus Greyrat, it would comfort me greatly to know that we can count on your aid.
I'm glad to hear it.
Now then.
Princess Ariel glanced over at Sylphie. Then her expression clouded over as if she found her next question difficult to ask.
What do you plan to do?
Do? What do you mean?
I apologize for being blunt, but I've heard about your objective in coming to this school. I was surprised to hear you were here for medical treatment, but you have now achieved your goal, have you not?
I have. In other words, my impotence was cured. I had no doubt about that. I'd achieved my goal, which meant my next order of business should be to reunite with Paul. That was what she was referring to, right? I still need to search for my missing family members. So if your intentions are to immediately depart for the Asura Kingdom and claim political power there, I cannot be of assistance.
Yes, I'm aware of that. I don't mind if you hold off on assisting me until after your family matters are settled.
I was grateful for that, though it did mean I'd owe her in the future. With any luck, I'd at least have settled things with Paul by the time she graduated, which only left finding Zenith, whom Elenilys had assured me wasn't in danger.
So, what do you plan to do?
Pardon? I tilted my head a little, unaware of what she was talking about. I just told her what I was going to do, hadn't I? Did we somehow go back in time? Was this a new stand user? What do you mean?
Don't tell me that now that your impotence has been cured, you're just going to bid Sylphie goodbye and leave to find your father.
Of course I wouldn't do something like that. I'm going to be with her. I raised my voice without meaning to at this unthinkable suggestion. There was no way in hell I'd let myself be separated from Sylphie. No way. Not me. I understood why Ariel was asking, though. Travel was so time-consuming in this world that it might take months or even years for me to meet back up with Paul. And while I might make it back before the princess began her bid for the throne in earnest, it would be difficult to take Sylphie with me. After all, she already had her own job working full-time as Princess Ariel's bodyguard.
Well then, what do you plan to do? You wouldn't leave Sylphie to be damaged goods without taking any personal responsibility, would you?
Of course I'll take responsibility. My reply was instantaneous, partly because she'd provoked it, partly because my mind was already made up. I'm going to marry her. Sylphie clapped a hand over her mouth at my blunt declaration. Luke faltered, breaking his formal posture as the shock registered on his face. Even Ariel looked utterly dumbfounded. Had I said something weird again? Maybe they thought I was moving too fast.
You're going to marry Sylphie?
Yes. This was fast, of course. I'd only recently realized that Master Fitz was actually Sylphie. Part of me felt like we should date for several months, get to know each other better first. Also, if we got married, I couldn't take off at a moment's notice, even if I got an urgent letter from Paul. Still, even taking all that into account, I meant what I said. I thought back to Eris. Sylphie might leave me too if I beat around the bush once more, instead of being clear and honest about my feelings. I didn't think I could take another blow like that. I was leaving nothing to chance this time.
Marriage, a magnificent decision.
Princess Ariel nodded in satisfaction and looked at Sylphie.
Sylphie at Greyrat?
What? Huh. Greyrat. What?
He said what he wants to do, but what about you?
Yes. I, Sylphie, will continue to serve you as I always have, Princess. And I also want to work hard as Rudeus' wife.
Now that Rudeus has said he will take you as his wife, isn't my protection unnecessary?
Princess Ariel, please don't say that.
Thank you.
After a meaningful moment of silence, Ariel pushed Sylphie gently. Sylphie came over to me, scratching at her ear in embarrassment. How cute! It made me want to lick her ear. I'd hold back for now. We were in front of Princess Ariel, after all.
Um, uh...
Yeah, me too. We awkwardly bowed at each other. For a few minutes, Sylphie fidgeted before looking back. She and the princess locked eyes. Then the princess suddenly spoke.
Sylphie, since you're going to be Rudeus' wife, you don't need to dress like a man anymore. Return to dressing like a woman.
But without Master Fitz as a disguise, she...
In exchange, Rudeus, I will make use of your name. There isn't a person around these parts who hasn't heard of you, and many may jump to their own conclusions once they learn I've handed you my right-hand woman.
She probably meant that since Sylphie and I would be together, people might think I was linked to the princess. So instead of making use of my magical powers, she would make use of my reputation. The end result was about the same, but the way she framed it was entertaining. I would be fine with serving you in an official capacity as well. I did have to reunite with Paul at some point, but that was a separate matter. I was fine with her making a definitive declaration about my loyalties, if not as a sympathizer to her cause, but rather someone connected to her through Sylphie.
Unnecessary. Your power is far too great for my hands to contain.
Not sure I'm that strong, I thought doubtfully. Still, it'd be a pain to have to follow her around and run her errands. I decided to take her word for it.
And of course, if anything should happen to you, you're free to drop my name as need be. Despite my current circumstances, the name of the second princess of the Asura kingdom may prove useful to you.
I appreciate that. It never hurt to have more friends in high places. Not that I was getting all this for free. I had little doubt she would hesitate to call upon my aid when she was ready to make her move, but decided not to dwell on that part for now. Sylphie took off her sunglasses, bowed her head, and said,
Princess Ariel, Luke, thank you for everything you've done for me.
I followed her example and bowed as well, and so I became a part of Ariel's inner circle and engaged to Sylphie. Chapter 2. Things to Prepare Before Marriage. Part 1. Marriage, a domain unexplored in my previous life. The prospect made me anxious. As important as this was to me, could I really go off and get married without resolving things with my family? They'd probably forgive me if marriage was the reason for my delay, though. Besides, I was looking forward to all that a marriage would entail. Just thinking about sinking my fangs into that sweet young girl made my mouth start watering, though I would let Sylphie set the pace, of course. There was just one problem. Now that I thought about it, I didn't know how marriage worked in this world. I'd never seen a wedding ceremony before. Paul didn't have one when he married Lilia, just a celebratory party to which the whole village had been invited. The nobles probably threw similar parties when an engagement was announced, but I'd never seen an actual wedding ceremony. What did marriage even mean? What was a married man supposed to do? I'd spent 16 years in this world and still didn't know something so basic. No, wait. It was fine that I didn't know. I could learn. If I didn't know the answers myself, I could just ask. I started by asking Zenoba, 26 years old, and already divorced about it during dinner in the cafeteria.
Marriage, ha! When I got married, I sent a gift of livestock, troops, and food to my partner's household.
It was customary in the Shironi kingdom for the man to send celebratory gifts to the bride's family. But you're a prince. Shouldn't you be the one receiving gifts? That was when Cliff stuck his nose in.
It's the opposite in Millis. The woman is given a dowry to provide to her husband.
He'd been eating dinner with us pretty often of late. He didn't have many friends, so he was probably lonely. Isn't the girl's family losing out on quite a lot, then?
In exchange, the man is bound to provide assistance should his wife's family ever require it.
So that's how it works. Both Millis and Shironi seem to emphasize a strong connection between the families.
But marriage customs vary by race.
What about elves?
I have yet to marry Lee, so I don't know. I promised to wait until I remove her curse. She's not like most elves, though, so I doubt she'll be too fussy about maintaining tradition.
He had a long wait ahead of him, then. All this discussion and still no mention of a ceremony. I was starting to think the concept didn't exist in this world. So, if I were to get married to someone, what would I need?
Let's see. First off, a house, right?
Indeed.
What? House? Right off the bat?
Why are you getting married if you don't even have a house?
A glance at Zenoba, who nodded along to Cliff's words, told me he felt the same. Come to think of it, Paul had moved to Buena Village when he got married. Until that point, he'd been an adventurer living in an inn, and had to enlist Philip's help to obtain a house and steady work.
Besides, girls can't go into the boys' dorm. Normally, couples marry and leave the dorms, or hold off until graduation to get married.
Now that he mentioned it, it was true that I hadn't heard of any married couples living in the dormitories. There wasn't a special dormitory for married couples either.
It's a different story if your partner is a girl of high standing with her own place, otherwise it's dependent on the man to provide housing.
Sounded a bit unfair, but that might just be what was considered the norm in this world. In that case, it was only logical for me to be the provider. In fact, my partner might be disappointed if I wasn't. Got it. So, a house first. Cliff got a suspicious look on his face when I said that.
Hold up. Rudeus, you getting married?
Well, yeah.
To whom?
Was it okay for me to say Sylphie's name here? Naturally, her identity would eventually be discovered, but I decided to keep it hidden for the moment. To the person who cured my illness.
Ah, I see. And their name?
I have to keep that a secret for the moment.
Okay. Well, if they happen to be a follower of Millis, let me know. I'm acquainted with the city's bishop, so we could have a ceremony, as long as you're okay with it being informal.
So the Millis faith did have something like a wedding ceremony then. I wasn't a follower of Millis, though, and I was sure Sylphie wasn't either.
Master, if you lack the funds, shall I assist?
No. I'd feel super lame about relying on you for that. Though I'd put on a brave face by saying that, I had no idea what the housing market was like around here. I hoped my savings would be enough. At any rate, I'll go have a look at houses in the city tomorrow. If it looks like I can't do it myself, I may ask for your help.
Of course, I can afford to buy even the biggest house in this city, so you have no need to worry.
Royals, even ones from small countries, were on a completely different level from us normies. The following day, I went to the real estate agency. The liege lord of a region was generally the one who offered home loans to residents, but there was no clear regional lord in Sharia. Instead, the 3 magic nations and the Magicians Guild jointly administered the territory through the establishment of a real estate agency that would resolve any problems that arose. As for what those problems might be, I had no idea. I referred to it as a real estate agency as a matter of convenience, but its official name was the Land Management Office. They dealt with the buying and selling of vacant houses, as well as granting permits for people to build on empty land. When I told the receptionist there that I wanted a house, I was handed a list. Information about available houses was cataloged on each page: addresses, plot sizes, house sizes, the number of rooms, and the cost. There was quite the variety from small single-room affairs to veritable mansions. To be honest, I had no idea how big a house I should buy. Something with a garden and room for a big dog might be best, or maybe a townhouse apartment. I didn't mind living somewhere small, but Sophie was the princess bodyguard, and her good friend on top of that. That meant the princess would come see her on occasion, and we couldn't be living in a shabby apartment if royalty came visiting. That said, my current savings wouldn't cover the cost of a posh residence of the kind designed for nobility. Maybe I should accept Zenoba's help? No, I'd feel awkward using him as my wallet. I could buy a decent house with what I had, after all. Maybe I should have brought Sophie with me. Shouldn't large purchases like this be discussed with one's partner? But in this world, it was apparently the man who bought the house and welcomed the woman into it. Sophie might think me pathetic if I couldn't do this on my own. I had to show her I was dependable, at least. So, a cheap, large house with lots of rooms. I searched the list for a match. A listing at the very bottom of the stack caught my eye. A worn-out, discolored page advertised what looked like a manor of some kind. It was located in a corner of the residential district, which meant it wasn't too far from the university. For the price it was going, I could buy it and still have some money left over. The only downside was its age. What about this one? Why is it so cheap?
To be honest, that manor is cursed.
Cursed, you say?
It's said you can hear a creaking sound in the middle of the night, but if you search for the source, you'll find nothing. The previous owner passed it off as the house just rattling because of the wind, and then the next day, they were brutally murdered.
Seriously? Then again, tales about cursed manors haunted by evil spirits were a dime a dozen. You didn't perform an exorcism?
We did put in a request with the Adventurers Guild, but the first people to take it up were brutally murdered, too. No one's wanted to take the quest ever since.
He went on to mention that the request they'd submitted was E-ranked. They'd wanted to raise its rank, but hadn't been granted the necessary funds. Add in the existence of some discord between them and the Adventurers Guild, and it seemed there were a lot of complicated factors at play. What about the Magicians Guild?
They said real estate isn't their jurisdiction, so we should figure it out ourselves.
What if I were able to successfully cleanse the place? Would you give it to me free of charge? The employee gave me a look as if to ask, "What the hell are you smoking?" Sorry, how about a provisional contract then? I'll check out the place myself in the next couple of days. If I decide I like it, then we'll make the sale official. Will that work?
Please write your name here then.
I'd failed in my attempt to haggle, but pressed on anyway, signing my name where I was told. There was a place where you could list a guarantor, and I went ahead and put down Princess Ariel's and Badigadi's names. Then I submitted it. After taking a look, the employee went pale and retreated to the back. Almost immediately, someone who looked like the manager appeared, rubbing their hands. I must be pretty famous to get this kind of treatment just from listing my name. Wait, maybe this was actually the effect of using Princess Ariel's and Badigadi's names? Or maybe a combination of all three? After a bit of discussion, I successfully reduced the asking price by half. Apparently, I'd turned into a fussy VIP customer despite having no intention of being anything of the sort. A few days later, I arrived at the manor in question. It had been built over a century ago, but the building itself looked solid. Mana was infused in all kinds of things in this world, so perhaps there was some in the structure that protected it from decay. The manor's frame was constructed of mud and stone, with wooden flooring. Moss and ivy grew along the walls, but aside from that, it was beautiful. I'd imagined something more dilapidated. Shall we go in, Mr. Zenoba? Mr. Cliff? I might be an A-ranked adventurer, but I wasn't cocksure enough to waltz alone into an unfamiliar and possibly haunted place. I'd asked Zenoba to accompany me and act as my trusty shield. If a knife-wielding, red-haired doll popped out of nowhere to attack us, he'd put a quick stop to it. Cliff had gotten this look in his eyes like he wanted to come along, so I invited him to join us too. He was a genius in advanced tier divine magic, so if we really were up against evil spirit-type monsters, he would definitely come in handy.
A respectable house. It seems a bit small, but I suppose this size is appropriate.
Don't you think this is way too big for just 2 people? You know you can buy something small to begin with and save up to move when it becomes too cramped for you?
If I split the difference, that meant this place was the perfect size. Thanks to its special circumstances, this place wasn't that expensive. Now, let's go in.
If you're okay with this place, Master, then I have nothing more to say about it.
Zenoba bravely led the way forward. He was holding a club, a weapon I'd prepared for him. I figured we didn't want to go in unarmed, but as Zenoba himself admitted, his superhuman strength meant he'd break any weapon placed in his hands. So I used my magic to make him a club. If he broke it, at least it had been free. Cliff was in the center. He had an expensive-looking staff held tightly in his hands as he whipped his head back and forth, surveying the area. He was probably trying to be vigilant, but to me it just looked like he was terrified. Finally, I took up the rear, providing offensive abilities from the back. In this party, the most important thing was to protect Cliff, as he was our healer and could provide some firepower as well. As the most experienced member of our team, it was safest to have me watching our backs. We walked down the cracked stone pathway and arrived at the entrance. The wooden doors were cracked, and the hinge on one side was broken. That would need repairing. I don't think we're in danger of stepping into any traps, but still, exercise extreme caution.
Yes, Master.
Zenoba put his hand on the knob, then ripped it right off the frame, without hesitation. Okay, don't just start breaking things.
My apologies. The door was bent and wouldn't open. I am sure you would need to repair it anyway.
Well, give me a heads up next time, okay?
Yes, Master.
At least he had his good manners going for him. We finally entered the house. The first room was the lobby. Before us, a staircase led to the next floor, with doors to the left and right. Hallways led deeper into the house on either side of the staircase. There wasn't much dust, so the real estate agency must have been periodically cleaning the place. It might look like a haunted house from the outside, but now that we were inside, I could see it had excellent natural lighting. This was a nice place.
Master, how shall we go about this?
We'll start with the right side of the first floor. We'll look through each and every room. I don't think there are any traps, but it's possible that either the floor or ceiling are rotted. So watch your head and feet.
Understood.
What? You sure going all out?
Well, I am an A-ranked adventurer.
Yeah, that's right, isn't it?
Cliff seemed to be nervous about something. Come to think of it, he'd gone off on an enjoyable adventure with Elenilis the other day, hadn't he? I wondered how it went. Oh, yes, so how was that adventure you went on the other day? Well, they are S-ranked, after all. The members of Step Leader probably hadn't been that harsh on him. After all, they'd known they were dealing with a rookie. How the person receiving that criticism decided to interpret it was a different matter. Cliff was a self-proclaimed genius. He'd probably never had anyone point out his flaws before.
What should I be doing?
If we run into an enemy, use basic-level divine magic to attack them.
G got it? But what if they're not a spirit?
In that case, just stay back. Either Zenoba or I will handle it. Cliff looked a bit indignant the moment I said that, so I knew I'd better follow up with something. Your magic is so strong that you might damage the house. He seemed satisfied with that explanation, thankfully. It was best to have a beginner like him focus on one thing at a time. Zenoba, there's a possibility, however slim, that there's a monster lurking here that can use magic. Keep your guard up.
Just leave everything to me.
To my surprise, Zenoba was completely unafraid. He had a warrior's spirit, which was heartening. The door on the right led to a spacious room with a floor area over 20 tatami mats wide. There was lots of sunlight and a large fireplace. It could either be a dining or living room. The fireplace was what grabbed my attention. Master Cliff, is this fireplace a magical implement?
Not sure. I'll take a look.
Cliff tried to peek inside. Wait, there might be something in there. I stopped him, examining the fireplace myself. Something was off, but I couldn't figure out what it was. The frigid winters here made a fireplace essential. If this one was magical, it could heat the entire house. If it wasn't, I'd consider remodeling it. Although I had a hard time giving up on the idea of Sylphie and I holding each other's naked bodies for heat. I'll blow some air through it. If there is a monster inside, it might come flying out at us, so stay alert. Having put the two of them on their guard, I conjured magic into the fireplace's chimney, scouring it with a strong gust of wind. Nothing happened. I strained my ears, but I could sense no movement. Some soot fell down, but that was it. I could send some fire up the chimney too, but if it was damaged in any way, the house might catch fire. For the moment, I stuck my head in and looked up the chimney. I could see the sky, albeit distantly. Just to be safe, I used fire to illuminate my immediate vicinity. I didn't sense anything lurking within. It was probably safe. I leave it to you then, Master Cliff. He searched the inside of the fireplace and immediately came upon a magic circle. No surprise, given that he'd been busily researching magical implements and curses recently. Does it look usable?
I can't say for sure until you light a fire in it, but it seems intact.
Good. All right. Thank you. I nodded, and we were off to the next room, the innermost one to the right of the entrance. It had stone floors and something like a kiln, so this was most likely the kitchen. There was a torn piece of cloth lying on the floor next to said kiln. When I picked it up, I discovered it was a ragged apron. Maybe Sylphie would cook for me in here naked except for an apron covering her. That gave me something to be excited about. No, forget that, I told myself. We were here to weed out the evil spirit or whatever it was that haunted this place. This was no time for me to be pitching a tent in my pants. I searched the kiln and every other place where a living thing might be hiding. Okay, nothing amiss here. Next. We discovered a door leading to the basement behind the staircase, but we decided to save that for later. We moved counterclockwise through each room on the first floor and found no abnormalities. There were some places where dust had built up, but the house was in such good condition that you wouldn't think it'd been built over a century ago. Perhaps the previous owner had made some repairs to it or something. So this is the last one, huh? We were done investigating the entire first floor. From the layout, I knew both sides of this manor mirrored each other identically, save for the fact that the room corresponding to the kitchen in the left wing didn't have a kiln. Maybe it was used for some purpose other than cooking, such as laundry. At any rate, we called it a kitchen for now. 2 kitchens, 2 large rooms, 4 small rooms, 2 toilets. It was almost as if 2 houses had been connected into one building. The only staircase was in the lobby, which seems the more likely host for evil spirits, the basement or the second floor.
The basement, I would think.
Important.
Since we were in agreement, I decided to head to the basement first. The door, located behind the stairs leading to the second floor, led to another flight of stairs heading downward. I lit the lamps we had and passed them to Zenoba and Cliff. I'll keep a lookout from the middle with my demon eye. Do not drop your lamp even if you think we're in danger. I can't provide backup in the dark.
I'm a blessed child. There's nothing to fear.
What a guaranteed death flag. Be more cautious, I inwardly chided him. You never know if an arrow will come flying out when you open a door or not, although, knowing Zenoba, it'd probably ricochet right off his body with a noisy clink. We reached a door that led further into the basement. Nothing here. There were several empty wooden shelves, but it otherwise looked like an unused storage area. I shone my light around a bit, but I didn't sense anything skulking about. There was kind of a stain on the wall, but it wasn't human-shaped at all. The edges of the wallboard had rotted a bit, but that was it. I'd have to replace them later. No monsters. It was a bit anticlimactic. Okay, the second floor it is then. We left the basement and returned to the entrance. From there, we headed up the flight of stairs to the second floor. The wood beneath our feet didn't even so much as creak. The second floor was also completely symmetrical. At either end of the two wings was a room connected to an inner bedroom. Apart from that, there were also a number of extra bedrooms, each about 6 tatami mats in size. That made 6 room in totals, 4 of those smaller rooms, and 2 medium-sized rooms which were about 12 tatami mats in size. The latter 2 were connected to the inner bedrooms. Finally, there was also a balcony. Let's put a big bed in this bedroom, I decided. One with more than enough room for 3 people to lie in. 2 normal beds pushed together might be good, too. No, wait, if the bed were small, we'd have to huddle close to sleep, which wouldn't be a bad thing. Then, when I awoke, I'd have her warmth right beside me, and her small breasts would be constantly within groping distance. Nope, not bad at all. At any rate, the bed was important. We'd be using it every day after all, and no, I didn't mean just for sex. People had to sleep, you know? Master Cliff.
Wait, what? Did you find something?
Do you think a larger bed would be best for a married couple? Cliff went quiet for a few seconds as he thought about it. Then he sucked in a breath. Finally, he sighed.
Oh, Yes, that's an important aspect of a relationship, but you're not doing your partner justice if that's the only thing you're focusing on.
Oh, well, yes, I suppose you're right. For some reason, his words were compelling, probably because he was speaking from experience. I could very easily imagine Ellen's eyes lunging at him, eyes full of lust. The moment the two of them were alone together, I'd take what he said to heart then. Guess I'll go with a bigger bed. Phew, nothing here, huh?
I assume we'll be staying the night here then, just as we planned.
Yes, I'm counting on you. I'd wanted to search the house ahead of time just to be sure, but hadn't really expected anything to come of it. According to the stories, the spirit only showed itself at night, accompanied by a creaking noise. Creepy. Probably just a monster that was squatting here, though. What kind? I didn't know. I didn't think it could be too powerful, considering we were in the middle of a city. Then again, low-ranking adventurers sent to clear out the house had been brutally murdered. We couldn't let our guard down. Perhaps the truth was actually simple. Bandits using the house as a hideout, for instance. The creaking sound could be caused by them picking the lock to the front door. No, the front door was broken. Then maybe the back door. But there were no signs of anyone living here at all. Yeah, I was stumped. Maybe I should have brought Elenilas and the others along too. She'd seen a lot in her long life. She might have been able to help us. Though, now that my little man was back in action, I wasn't confident being around her wouldn't turn me on. I could just imagine it. I'd be keeping watch in the middle of the night, and a shadow would come creeping up to me, whispering temptations into my ear. But Cliff is sleeping right beside us, I'd say, and she'd respond. So what? Stay alert. The spirit might not show itself right away, so we'll be spending the night.
I'm worried about Julie.
I'm worried about Elenilas.
Julie was a clever kid. She knew her status as a slave, and she wasn't going to rashly provoke anyone, not when she was living in a section of the dorm primarily occupied by nobles. Zenoba had no reason to worry about her. Elenilas, on the other hand, was both popular and capricious. She might well use Cliff's absence to have an affair. My thoughts went to Sylphie, who was probably serving as the princess's bodyguard again, just as she always did. There was nothing to worry about. Wait! I did tell her that I was going out today, but I hadn't mentioned I'd be staying the night. What if she came to my room to talk to me before bed, and I wasn't there? She might hover in that cold hall, waiting for me, mumbling to herself, "Rudy sure is late."
The sun's about to set.
I could see the evening sun reflecting off the bedroom window. If I left now, it would be nightfall by the time I made it back to campus. Sylphie would probably already be back at the girls' dorm. Even if I didn't say anything to her directly, I should at least leave a note on my door saying that I wouldn't be there tonight. Right? All right, let's do it. Let's go right now. No, wait. What if these two got themselves killed while I was gone? That wouldn't do. I was, after all, the leader of this party. Just calm down, I told myself. It wasn't a big deal. As long as I explained everything afterward, Sylphie would understand, although, wait, I'd heard something about this a long time ago, that all the instances in a relationship where you found yourself saying, just this once, tended to accumulate, ultimately leading to a rift between you and your partner. Crap, now I had a bad feeling about this. The solution was obvious. Intentionally raise my own death flag. Zenoba.
Yes, what is it?
I'm getting married once we finish this mission.
Indeed. Let's finish it quickly so we can have a grand celebration here.
Wait, now that I'd actually said it, my uneasy feeling had gotten even worse. If I said something like, a celebration, yes, that's exactly what we need. In reply, I had a feeling I wouldn't survive long enough to get married. Maybe I should put something hard in my chest pocket for now. Except I didn't have a chest pocket. If a bullet from a .357 Magnum suddenly came flying at me, I'd have no way to stop it. Cliff inserted himself into the conversation again.
Make sure you invite me and Lisa's.
Of course. Why wouldn't you be invited?
Just making sure. It's one thing if I'm left out, but I'd be sad to see it happen to her.
Cliff really couldn't read the room, which was probably why he was always left out of those kinds of gatherings. I'd be sure to invite him, though, and Elenialize, too, of course. Anyway, I was tired of this sausage fest. I wanted to hurry up, finish this, and go home to Sylphie and her breasts. No, focus. I could touch her as much as I wanted to later. Day turned to night as I busied myself with those thoughts. Meanwhile, back at the girls' dorm, Sylphie had already caught wind of the fact that Rudeus had gone house shopping. She was currently in her bed, arms snug around her pillow, rolling around as she fantasized the possibilities. Chapter 3, Things to Prepare Before Marriage. Part 2, we took turns standing watch. One person would stay awake to alert the other two if anything weird happened. I specifically instructed my companions that if they heard a creaking sound, they should not investigate, but wake the others at once instead. We were sleeping where the previous resident had been murdered, the bedroom at the edge of the second floor. The location might have something to do with whether the evil spirit appeared or not. I didn't really think it was bandits or the like, though it sure would be nice if that was all it was. I could arrest them, turn them in, and add the resulting cash reward to our marriage funds. If it was just a regular monster, even better. All we had to do was search and destroy. Easy as pie.
Rudeus, wake up. It's that sound.
It happened when Cliff was on lookout. I immediately woke and jumped up, checking the time. To ensure that we slept lightly, each person only got 2 hours of sleep at a time, using an hourglass to keep track. Right now, it was on its second flip, which meant it was about 2 or 3 in the morning, the perfect time for an evil spirit to appear. Wake Zenoba up. After giving Cliff that short command, I headed over to the door and strained my ears. Oh, crap! I really could hear it quite clearly, too. It sounded like a creaking chair. It was actually kind of terrifying now that I heard it for myself. My lips pinched as I activated my eye of foresight.
Ah!
Once I confirmed he was awake, I put my hand on the doorknob. Then, slowly, making sure it didn't make a noise, I opened the door. I looked down the hallway. Nothing. Just to be sure, I looked the opposite way too. Nothing. Then, up and down. Nothing. I strained my ears, but I couldn't hear anything. The sound had stopped. Zenoba got up and came over behind me.
How does it look out there?
I don't see anything in the area. We could either search the manor or wait for something weird to happen. The previous owner had ignored the noise, thinking he'd misheard it, and then died, so we probably shouldn't copy him. Let's search for the source.
All right then, we're using the same formation as before, I take it?
Yeah, be careful.
As long as you're guarding my back, Master, I have nothing to fear.
He took hold of his club. Cliff followed him, looking nervous. Master Cliff, do you remember what you're supposed to do?
Divine magic.
That's right. I'm counting on you. Zenoba would be our shield. Cliff would use divine magic, and if that didn't work, I would use my stone cannon. We were all set. Zenoba, let's move out. Our nighttime investigation began. I was already familiar with the house's layout from our daytime search, and the investigation moved smoothly. First, we searched the entirety of the second floor. No abnormalities to be found. After that, we cautiously descended to the first floor. We moved through each room, checking each place where something might be hiding, such as the fireplace in the kiln. Once again, nothing. All of the rooms were empty.
Master, all that's left is the basement.
Yeah. We headed down the steps toward the basement. It was dark. There'd been nothing here when we searched during the day, but now I sensed something ominous below. I was getting nervous. My heart drummed loudly. I took a deep breath, keeping my guard up in case anything attacked us from behind as we made our way down the stairs. It felt like we were descending into hell. Finally, we arrived at the basement. How is it?
There's nothing here.
I used my lamp to illuminate the area. There was nothing, not even at the edges of the room. Besides, the previous owner had surely checked the basement out. It was the most suspicious place in the manor after all. Let's return to the bedroom and prepare ourselves. We cautiously crept out of the basement and back to the second floor. We walked down the hallway to the room we'd been stationed in. Zenoba, there's a chance it might be lurking in the room we were sleeping in, so be careful when you open the door.
Understood.
He tightened his grip on his club and gently set his other hand on the doorknob before opening it. Nothing happened. Looks like it's all clear. There was nothing. No attack. We could rest for now. Perhaps it was time to consider that the creature only attacked while people were asleep, or while they were in the loo. Come to think of it, we hadn't checked the garden. I should take a closer look at that tomorrow. That's when I suddenly looked behind us. There it was. It was at the end of the hallway, low to the ground, almost as if it were crawling. Only its upper half showed over the top of the stairs. It had its head cocked as it looked our way. At first, I thought it could be human. It had eyes, a nose, a mouth, but no hair or ears. I also, somehow, didn't get the sense that it was alive. It painted a haunting, pale silhouette in the darkness as it watched us. For a few seconds, we just stared at one another. That was when it moved. Its body rose and it leaped onto the second floor. It was human-sized, but it wasn't a human. It had 4 arms and 4 legs. In the pitch black of night it came, brandishing what looked like a stake, loping silently on all 4 legs as it streaked at an unbelievable speed straight towards... Oh! My legs gave out, and I landed on my ass while hastily launching a stone cannon. Fear that I might destroy my own house rose within me. I hesitated, but ultimately weakened the strength of my attack. The ball of earth shattered against our enemy's shoulder, but all it did was make the inhuman thing stagger. It came at me with its stake, and I used my demon eye to try and avoid it, but...
Master!
Zenoba flew in front of me. The creature swung down hard with its weapon. It went straight for his heart. Zenoba! It didn't pierce through. Zenoba's blessed skin was too tough for the creature's attack. Yeah, that's my pupil. Not even a scratch, I thought. Zenoba grabbed the thing's face with both hands. All 8 of its limbs scrabbled in the air as it rained punches on Zenoba. Cliff peeked slightly out of the room to chant an incantation.
I call upon thee, God, who blesses the land which nurtures us. Deliver divine punishment to those foolish enough to defy the natural ways. Exercise.
White light from his staff struck the 4-legged figure, but didn't stop it from moving. So it wasn't a spirit? In that case, it was time for me to use my magic. Zenoba, get out of the way. I'm going to use stone cannon.
Please wait, Master!
Zenoba wouldn't move. Even though the stake was tearing his clothes to shreds, he wouldn't step aside. Why? Enough. Move! I'll handle it.
Please wait! Master, I beg of you!
Zenoba threw his arms around the thing, almost as if he were trying to protect it from me. It continued scrabbling, reducing his clothes to rags. His back, now exposed, looked so frail you wouldn't believe he possessed superhuman power. A few seconds passed like that. Then, Minutes, the enemy continued its violent struggle, but its movements were gradually becoming duller until it stopped. Phew! Once Zenoba was certain it had stopped, he pulled off his torn garments and used them to bind the inhuman thing's hands and feet.
Master, let's return to the room.
All right. Cliff stood in the middle of the room, trembling with terror.
D don't get the wrong idea. It's not like I ran away. I just figured I'd be in the way in that cramped hallway.
Ah, I see. Good thinking. His excuse wasn't even remotely convincing. But then, again, I'd gotten scared too. I wasn't going to say anything.
Master?
You saved me back there, Zenoba, but that was dangerous, you know. Unlike a certain demon king, you're not immortal.
This is amazing, Master. Here, please have a look.
Zenoba was extremely excited. He completely ignored me as he set down our bound attacker, which was making unexpectedly light clattering noises. Zenoba grabbed a lamp to shine upon it. It's a doll? Before us was a white-painted wooden mannequin, crumpled over. It had 4 arms and legs. Despite its strange shape, it was definitely a construct. I'd wondered why I hadn't heard its footsteps, and now I knew. Pitch-black cloth was wrapped around each of its feet. What I thought had been a stake was just a broken arm, too, of its 4 arms were broken. It had a pitiful excuse for a nose and mouth on its face, with glass balls for eyes. Those cold and unfeeling eyes were what I'd been looking at before. To be honest, it was entirely too creepy to bear, and it might start moving again any minute. Cliff was of the same mind. He had his staff at the ready, cautiously fixing his gaze on the doll.
Master, this is an incredible discovery.
Zenoba, I don't care how much you love dolls.
This one moved. A moving doll.
When he said that, I realized he was right. This doll had attacked us. A moving doll. A moving doll. A doll that moved all on its own. So, an automaton, like a robot, like a maid robot. Ooh! As those words flashed through my mind, the fear I'd felt instantly dissipated. You're right. This is incredible.
You finally understand.
Yeah, I'm glad we didn't destroy it. Zenoba, your judgment was flawless.
I knew what it was at first glance.
I'd expect no less. Your eye for dolls has already surpassed mine. That aside, a moving doll. Come to think of it, there were other inanimate objects in this world that moved, like armor. This doll was carved from wood, but maybe I could make stone figures move as well, and if I could find a way to make the figures move by themselves, and if I could develop a substance like silicon to give them skin like humans, the possibilities were endless. Zenoba, what should I do? My heart is pounding so hard.
Mine too. I can feel the tears coming.
For now, we take the doll back home. Then we could research the mechanism that allowed it to move. Cliff suddenly lost his patience with us. I looked over to find him glaring at us, his staff tightly gripped in both hands.
This isn't the time to be talking about that kind of stuff.
Not the time to be talking about what stuff?
Zenoba grabbed Cliff's face in one hand and lifted him up into the air. Ah, it'd been a while since I'd seen him pull this trick. Cliff grabbed at Zenoba's arm, but the latter didn't even flinch.
The doll moved. Do you not understand how remarkable that is?
Ow, ow, ow. There are monsters out there like that, like armor that moves on its own.
Monsters. Hearing that made me recall our initial objective. The reason we'd come here wasn't to catch a doll that could move. It was to secure this house. Not that I couldn't kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Zenoba, please release him.
But, Master!
Master Cliff has a point. As soon as Zenoba let him go, Cliff immediately chanted healing magic to recover. What a baby. This doll is likely the evil spirit we were looking for. Herm, and there's no guarantee it's the only one. Let's find and capture any others on the premises. Maybe we can find some information about how they were made while we're at it.
I understand.
We won't be sleeping tonight. We need to do an exhaustive search of the house and figure out where this doll was hiding. That was how our third sweep of the building began. We were looking for a place big enough to hide a human-sized doll, but had found nothing of the sort in our second round of searching the house. I thought it might be in the garden since we hadn't checked there, but that lead didn't pan out. The doll's footprints were clearly imprinted on the snow, but led nowhere. I was beginning to suspect there was a hidden room in the house. It had clearly been designed to be completely symmetrical, so perhaps we needed to look for anything that wasn't symmetrical. With that in mind, I searched the house's first and second floors for anomalies in the layout, but didn't find anything. The lack of light made it hard to tell.
It might be better to look again tomorrow when we have daylight.
We agreed. Before we quit for the night, however, we decided to move the doll to the university. We bound its arms and legs tightly and put it in Zenoba's room. In better lighting, we could tell that it was quite old. It had looked pale white before, but I could see now that the original white paint was beginning to peel, and there were patches of mold.
Master, is this a new doll? Shall I clean it?
I thought she might be afraid of it, but instead she just seemed curious. When Zenoba brought home random dolls from the market, she was in charge of cleaning them up. Zenoba thought the best way to increase her appreciation for figurines was to have her practice cleaning and polishing them, and it seemed his education was working.
How do we get it to move again?
We'll look into that after we deal with the manor. I understood his impatience, but he needed to calm down. For now, we sealed the thing up in a box made with my earth magic. I didn't want it attacking Julie while we were away. We returned to the manor, stopping to buy a bunch of lamps along the way. I decided to search the fireplace again, crawling into it to give it a thorough examination this time. This isn't it, huh? I batted away soot and spiderwebs as I finished my search. Then it struck me, there wasn't any soot on the floor. It was almost as if it had been cleaned, completely wiped away. Now that I thought about it, the cloth wrapped around the doll's feet had been black. Was it cleaning the place up every night? Now for the second floor, first floor, and basement, of which the basement was definitely the most suspicious. We ventured down once more with our lamps. I left the door cracked open to ensure we wouldn't run out of oxygen and lined up lamps so the space was thoroughly illuminated. If I were a children's storyteller, I might have exclaimed, "See, look, it's as bright as day in here." There was a darkened square shape on the wall, a hidden door that we hadn't noticed in the dark. When the house was first built, it had probably blended in, but as time passed, the wear from repeated openings and closings had darkened the area around the hinges. There were also marks on the ground where the door swung open.
Well, let's go in.
Cliff happily reached to open the door. I readied myself for a possible attack and trained my eye on the door, but then Cliff paused. "What's wrong?"
I don't know how to open it.
I took a look for myself. He was right. There was neither a doorknob nor notch in the door to help you pull it open. It didn't seem like you were supposed to lift it open either. I looked at the scuff marks on the ground. I had no doubt that the door could be opened, and that it opened toward us. I noticed something strange about those marks. They began 3 boards over to the left, not aligned with the wear on the wall. In my previous life, we'd gone on a school trip to a former ninja village that had a hidden door. With that memory in mind, I tried pressing on the door's left edge. There was a creak, but the door didn't open. It was heavy. Sonoba, push this part right here.
Huh?
Once he did, the door creaked open. So that was the sound we'd heard last night, huh? There was a handle on the inside of the door, so opening it from within was apparently easy. I doubt there are any traps, but please keep your guard up, I said as we entered, lighting the room with my lamp. It was a cramped room with a single desk, a wooden pedestal, and nothing else. There were several books and a bottle of ink on the desk. The bottle was cracked, and its contents had all dried up. As for the pedestal, how should I describe it? It was shaped like a casket, its base hollowed with indentations that fit the doll's size and shape. Looking closely, I noticed a transparent crystal embedded in the wood right where the doll's head would rest. It probably charged itself by lying here in a magical sense anyway, not an electrical one. Cliff, can you tell me anything about this pedestal?
Nope, it's my first time seeing something like this.
I nervously reached out to touch it. I didn't think it would zap me or anything, but I had to make sure it was inert. When it didn't react, I turned my attention to one of the books on the desk. I could tell it had been left here for quite a while, but fortunately, there was no sign that bugs had gotten to it. Maybe the doll had exterminated them? On the front cover was a title and a crest in a language I couldn't read. The book's interior was the same, written in a script I didn't know, which meant it had to be Sky God Tongue, Sea God Tongue, or a language so obscure I'd never heard of it. Both the crest and the script felt familiar, though. Where had I seen them? The university library, perhaps? As I thumbed through the pages, I came upon a number of sketches. Sketches of the human body, sketches of magic circles. As I flipped further, I came upon one of the four-legged, four-armed doll. Zenoba?
Yes.
Zenoba, who had been stationed at the entrance, came over. I think this is the doll we found. What do you think?
I can't read the text, but you're probably right.
Where? Let me see.
The three of us gazed at the book, flipping through the pages. The binding was quite old and seemed like it might give at any moment. There were arrows drawn beside the sketches and words written beneath them, probably annotations or commentary. There were sketches of the doll's arms, magic circles, and more arrows and annotations. The margins were packed with detailed scribbles.
Judging by the sketches alone, this seems similar to the magic circles used to enchant magical implements.
Really?
Yeah, I can tell because I've been researching them lately. The doll must be a magical implement.
So that's it. The previous owner, no, the first owner of this house had probably been researching something forbidden. My guess was that he'd had the doll protect the house, which seemed to have been successful, since it had clearly been moving about the manor and attacking intruders. Then the original owner disappeared. Whether he'd left his work incomplete and moved somewhere else or got caught, I had no idea. Considering he'd left the fruits of his labor behind, there was a high possibility he'd passed away in some unforeseen accident. As for the doll, it had probably stayed asleep here on this pedestal, until something happened that caused it to awaken. It started cleaning the house and patrolling it, killing any intruders it discovered. It was probably programmed to return back to the pedestal to recharge once it was done. This seemed like the most logical conclusion, at least. Though if it was patrolling the garden, then someone should have spotted it by now. Wait, no, we'd broken the front door when we first got here, and it had been the only broken door in the building. The doll's original programming might have had it patrolling the garden, but it was forced to abandon that route when it couldn't open the doors, leaving it trapped inside the house. And then we'd broken the door when we entered, allowing it to resume doing rounds of the garden probably right around when we passed by and headed up the stairs, leading it to follow us. Just to be on the safe side, I searched every nook and cranny of the house again and kept an eye on it for several more days. There were no more sounds at night. Once I was certain it was safe, I went to the real estate agency to officially sign the contract. As for the evil spirit, I told them it was a fiendish monster that had roosted in a hidden room in the basement of the house. Tomorrow, I'd have some people go in to start cleaning and making repairs. I decided to buy only the bare essentials of furniture for now. Perhaps it was just the Japanese part of me talking, but I felt like I should save the rest for myself and Sylphie to decide on together. Besides, we wouldn't actually be able to move in for another month when the renovations would be done. I could just imagine the excitement on Sylphie's face. See, this is our new house, I'd say. Whoa, Rudy, it's amazing. There's a lot of rooms inside too, so we'll have enough space regardless of how many kids we have. Incredible. You're even thinking about our future together. Take me now. Of course, my love. I already prepared the bed for us. Rudy, take me, yeah, that wasn't likely to happen, but the thought still made me grin. Wait, she wouldn't be disappointed, would she? Like, oh, Rudy, this was all you could get for us. No, Sylphie wasn't that selfish. At least I was pretty sure she wasn't. Anyway, this had been a fruitful endeavor. In just a few days, I'd gotten my hands on a nice new place and inherited one of the treasures that had been left inside it. I was fairly sure that doll was a magical implement. It was possible the proper protocol in these circumstances was to submit my discovery to the Magician's Guild, but I wasn't officially a member yet. Once the process was more or less over, I decided to move the research materials that had been left in the basement room. Zenoba carried the pedestal while I carried the books and such. We'd be using them to investigate that doll.
Master!
We were on the path leading back to the university when Zenoba called out to me, a serious look on his face. He had the large wooden pedestal balanced on his shoulder. It was incredibly heavy, but Zenoba had no issues lifting it. Just to be on the safe side, we'd wrapped it in cloth so it would look like a coffin to anyone watching. What is it?
Might I convince you to leave the research on the moving doll entirely to me?
I met his gaze. Behind those round frames was a look of determination I'd never seen before.
My mana pool is deplorably small, and my hands are far too clumsy. I'm even holding you back on the red worm figurine we're supposed to be making for Julie. I've barely made any progress on it.
Mushoku Tensei Vol10 by Rifujin Namaganot. Cast by Artale Studio. If you are interested in creating your own audio drama like this, please visit artale.ai and use promotion code ARTALE to activate your account. Now, enjoy the story. It would be easy to assure him that wasn't true, but I knew this was a concern for him. I couldn't speak thoughtlessly.
However, I feel like I can carry out research. Honestly, looking at the book gives me a sense of what the author wanted to accomplish.
So he could intuit the thoughts of the doll's creators since they shared a similar passion, huh?
That said, identifying and translating the language may take some time. Perhaps it would be faster for you to lead the search.
I wasn't sure about that. I couldn't spend all my time researching dolls after all. It might be more beneficial to leave it to Zenoba. But, hypothetically, what would you do if that doll were to go berserk again?
Even if it were to go on a rampage, I could recapture it without injury. You saw that for yourself, didn't you?
True enough. The thought of it moving at night was a bit terrifying, but that probably wouldn't happen as long as it wasn't allowed to recharge on its pedestal. Leaving it in Zenoba's room was dangerous, though, so it might be a good idea to borrow one of the university's research chambers. One with a sturdy door. No, wait. It was possible this really was forbidden magic at work. Maybe we'd be better off not doing this on campus, even though Nanahoshi was doing something similar with her research into magic circles. Maybe I'd have her put in a good word for me, just in case. She was an A-ranked member of the guild, after all.
Please, Master, when your plan is fully realized, I don't want my only contribution to be money.
It seemed Zenoba had put a lot of thought into this. I was a little concerned about his single-minded fixation on figurines, but if this was how he felt, maybe I should leave it to him.
I beg of you, entrust this research to me.
Apparently, he misunderstood my silence as reluctance. He'd set the pedestal aside and was now on his hands and knees, both hands spread before him as he prostrated himself in the snow. Okay, I get it. Just stand up. I'll leave it to you.
Truly?
He immediately leaped to his feet, an expression of absolute joy on his face. He sure changed on a dime. There's a possibility you may be treading into forbidden magic territory.
Forbidden magic?
Yes. We'll borrow a research chamber from the university for now, so do your work there.
Thank you!
He quickly lifted the pedestal again, narrowly missing the tip of my nose. That was close. What had he planned on doing if he accidentally hit me in the head with that?
Would the two of you quit drawing attention to yourselves in the middle of the street?
And so, Zenoba began his search into automated dolls, and I got my hands on a new house. Next up, renovations. Chapter 4, Dramatic Renovations. Rayas Kingdom, the magic city of Sharia. In a section of this city, heavily populated with students, was an old manor with many problems. A single step down the drive brought you to an untended garden, and then to a broken front door. The walls and ceilings had water damage, and the roof leaked when it rained. There was a fireplace that might or might not be in working condition, and the outer walls were shrouded in moss and shriveled vines. In short, it was less a house and more an abandoned ruin. Even better, the house was haunted. Surprisingly enough, a man named Rudeus Greyrat was attempting to move into the house. A former A-ranked adventurer and current student of the University of Magic, Rudeus had bought the house for himself and his future wife to live in. Peculiar taste, for sure. Not many people would choose such a place to begin their newlywed life. One man took up this client's call, Balda of the Large Hollow, an artisan and renovator, and an expert architect affiliated with the Magicians Guild in the Duchy of Basharant. He had 30 years of experience that encompassed everything from designing the layout of a building to actually constructing it. Having acquired his skills in the holy country of Milis, he had a number of notable achievements under his belt, such as constructing a detached school building for the University of Magic. Balda was a bit of a stubborn man, but a good one whose skills were undeniable. He always had a hammer by his side, and if he found something he didn't like, even if it was a stranger's house, he'd tear it down and rebuild it. Such was the temperament of a craftsman. He'd beat anything into shape with his hammer, whether it be buildings or his own pupils. That was how he'd acquired another nickname, Balda the Hammer.
Aha! We're here. You must be Quagmire. Heard you're getting married.
The person who welcomed the artisan was the client himself, a man known on the streets as Rudeus the Quagmire, though more affectionately referred to as Quagmire by the artisan. Yes, I'm in your hands, Mr. Balda. Balda knew Rudeus. Talhand was an old friend of his, and he'd heard of Rudeus through Talhand's companion, Elenalise. I'm glad I was able to buy a house for my new wife, but as you can see, it needs some work.
Well, why don't you let me have a look?
Be my guest. As soon as they tried to enter the house, the artisan furrowed his brows.
Hey now, what's this here? This doorway's in bad shape. Almost like the door got ripped right off its hinges.
It didn't fit right and couldn't be opened, so we had no choice but to break it.
Tans, honestly, you kids just like to go breaking everything. You don't have any respect for things.
I agree completely. The client easily brushed off the artisan's angry words. He spoke as if he had nothing to do with the door's destruction. The artisan didn't care much for that kind of attitude, but he held his feelings in. He'd heard that Rudeus the Quagmire was quite the terrifying individual if you provoked his anger.
So what you want to do about the door?
What do you mean?
Quality of materials, design, that kind of stuff. If you don't got a preference, I'll just use my own know-how.
I don't have any particular preference when it comes to materials, but I would like to request a sturdy door. Also, please add a door knocker.
Course. This is the front entrance, after all.
After that, they headed inside, where the artisan once again wore a look of mixed emotion.
This place has really had a number done on it.
It has?
The floor is oddly well made, but the walls and ceiling are pretty shoddy work in comparison. Almost like the basement's the most important part of the house and everything else is just extra.
You can tell all of that?
Course I can.
Balda's eyes could easily tell what was well made and what wasn't. The floor, stairs, second floor, dining area, kitchen, and fireplace were all solid work. He could tell that a talented builder had exercised their architectural skills and magic abilities to create this 100 years ago. But someone else had made renovations to the walls and ceiling. That's where it had gone haywire.
Well, this can be fixed real quick.
The artisan's words were reassuring. Relieved, the client led him to a large dining area.
A large room, eh? Sunlight in here ain't bad.
How about the fireplace?
Let's see. This is a nice fireplace. Bit old, but probably best we not go making adjustments to it.
Are you sure?
Here, look at this mark chiseled in here. This is the mark of a genius craftsman. His name's been lost to time, but in the Asura kingdom, magical implements with this mark on them fetch a high price. Most of them are small gadgets, though. Who'd have thought the same person would have created a whole fireplace somewhere like this?
The client thought back to the crest on the diary he'd found in this house just a few days before, finally realizing that it looked awfully similar to this one. It seemed the original owner of the house had built these things himself.
So, what do you want to do with this big room?
That's a good question. What do you normally do with a room like this?
Well, it's a big area. Plonk down a big table and you can use it for parties. Have the one on the other wing of the house as a spare. If something comes up and you can't use this room, then you can use that one instead.
So you wouldn't use it most of the time?
Not normally, no. Then again, for most us living normal everyday lives, one big room is more than enough.
I suppose you're right. Let's use the room in the other wing as a lounge then.
Aye.
The artisan and his client continued their exchange as they moved to the next room.
Yeah, I got 2 kitchens here too, though the second one's got no kiln.
I assume that means it wasn't used then?
Got a drainage pipe, so it was probably used for washing and bath.
Oh, so a bathroom. The artisan looked at the kitchen, then the washing area. He checked for deterioration and clogging in the plumbing, then nodded.
This place is fine without any repairs. It's pretty clean for how much it's been used, though might not have been used much to begin with.
There is one thing I'd like to consult you about, the client said, following up with his own suggestion. The artisan's eyes lit up.
You think of some interesting stuff, but I don't have the materials for that, so it might cost you.
I'll create them myself with magic.
Got it all figured out, eh? Very well. Let's see what we can do.
And so the client entrusted the artisan with his idea. The next day, 10 of Bolda's underlings gathered together, and the renovations began. Part 1, Door. Early in the morning, a large door made of expensive wood, shaved down to fit the frame, was carried in. On the outside of the sturdy slab was a door knocker in the form of a lion, with a magic circle drawn into the edge of the door as a security measure.
It ain't much, but if anyone tries to force the door open, a loud noise will echo throughout the house. Could be an alarm clock, too.
The client laughed boldly at the artisan's idea. Part 2, Washing Area. Under the artisan's skilled ministrations, this area was undergoing quite the change. First, a partition was put in to split the area in two. The stone flooring was replaced by tile and canted toward a drain in one corner of the room. In another corner, a square stone box large enough for 3 people to lie in was installed. The floor below was slightly indented so the box could be set in place. Then a window was installed close to the ceiling. What exactly was this room supposed to be? Part 3, Basement Room. The client and artisan stood in the darkness of the basement.
This is a nice basement area. The way it's built, you'll hardly ever get mice coming in.
Yes. Well, about this hidden door here. Behind it, I'd like you to create a room like this.
Why are you wanting such a strange... forget it. I won't say nothing. I'm a good follower of Millis, but it looks like you sure aren't.
Machinery and materials were brought into the basement to fulfill the client's wishes, and the stains on the corners of the hidden door were completely washed away. 2 weeks later, when the renovations were finally complete, the client brought his wife along with him.
Oh, I wonder what it is you want to show me. I am so excited.
You sound like you're reading those lines off a piece of paper, Sylphie. Don't tell me you secretly gathered intel and already know what it is?
What? Whatever do you mean? I have no idea what you're talking about.
Rudeus flirted with his wife as she continued to pretend stilted surprise, and the two made their way through the snow. Apparently, while I wasn't looking, the honest two-a-fault girl I knew learned to lie. Now that I think about it, maybe I should be happy. But if you can lie so boldly now, then I'm worried you might lie to me again in the future.
This is your fault too, Rudy. If you use Princess Ariel's name, I'm going to find out about it.
I apologize.
I'm going to get anxious if you don't tell me anything, you know. I mean, you're so handsome.
You think I'd cheat? That's upsetting?
No, I mean, you know, I'm not very, they're kind of small.
The moment the man saw the anxious look on his wife's face, a grin spread across his. What's this? You're worried about your breast size. Don't worry, this old man is a believer in equality. Ha 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 ha.
Old man? Hey, don't start suddenly touching me. People are watching.
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry. By the time they reached the house, the man had grown quiet, like a dog with its tail tucked between its legs. His wife adjusted her sunglasses and grumbled in frustration.
Consider the time and place. Save that stuff for nighttime in the bedroom, okay?
Yes, Miss Sophiette. I will never do it again.
Ah, but if you really can't hold yourself back, then...
Ho-ho? You're gonna have to speak up, kid. This old man's ears aren't like they used to be. The two of them took a look at their new house. Before, moss clung to the stones and ivy snaked its way across the outside of the house. The windows were shattered and the front door hung off its frame. The Rudeus estate gave off an eerie aura, as if it were home to a witch. Now, the previously moss-covered stones had all been cleaned and polished, and a new coat of pure white paint had been applied to the outer walls. The roof, previously so dull you couldn't tell its original shade, was now a bright green. Sturdy dark brown double doors had been installed in the entryway. The doors had sparkling, lion-shaped gold hinges that looked almost like guard dogs. Seeing this, the wife covered her mouth. What do you think?
What do I think?
I picked a color close to your original hair color for the roof. You might not have liked your hair, but I really did.
Huh? Oh, I see. Ah!
She kept her hand pressed to her mouth, eyes full of admiration as she looked over the house. Come on then, let's go inside and see the rest of it. The two of them went inside. A mat lay at the front entrance for them to wipe their feet on, a representation of the client's feelings about this world's culture of wearing shoes indoors. To the right is the dining room. To the left is the living room. Which would you like to see first?
I guess the dining one first.
So you prefer the dining room? Very good. I'm sure you'll take an even bigger liking to this place once you see it. Come this way. The client's nervousness was filtering into his speech, as if he were some kind of car salesman. The two made their way from the foyer to a room on the left. The previously large, empty room had undergone quite the transformation. First, a long table had been placed within. It was bare at the moment, but it looked capable of seating 10 people. The walls were covered in white wallpaper, and in the corner was a vase with a small arrangement of flowers. The large fireplace had been repaired with brand new red bricks that accented the rest of the room.
Whoa, this is amazing!
We'll eat either here or in the living area.
What are we going to do with a table this long?
I'm sure we'll use it when we invite people over.
Oh, that makes sense. You're right. We'll have guests over.
The girl removed her sunglasses and scratched at the back of her ears. He reached over and patted her on the head, an affectionate look on his face. No doubt the client was inwardly thinking not only of potential guests, but of filling the seats at the table with their children. Okay then, to the living room. They moved to the living room. Spread out before them was a large, welcoming, family-oriented space. Couches were installed around the fireplace. A table sat close by with a pitcher and some cups resting atop it. The artisan had displayed magnificent ingenuity in implementing the client's desire for a relaxing house so naturally.
This is amazing. Can I sit on this?
Of course you can. But please don't even mention that the cushions are hard. I already know. They'll soften more with wear, I'm told.
I haven't even sat down yet. In fact, Rudy, you've been talking weird for a bit now.
I'm just a little nervous. His wife cautiously took a seat on the couch.
It's not really hard at all.
The client settled down beside his wife. Then he wrapped an arm around her shoulder, and the two faced each other, gazes connecting. His wife softly closed her eyes, and he pulled her back up onto her feet. Why don't we go see the next room? It's the kitchen. The Rudeus estate boasts a fantastic meal preparation area. Come, have a look.
Yeah.
Besides the existing stone kiln, the kitchen also hosted an assortment of the newest cooking equipment. There was a counter large enough to butcher an entire boar on, and a cooking stove with a gigantic generic pot. There were also casks, jars, and earthen containers for storage purposes.
It's so normal.
It sure is. As her husband's expression turned solemn, the wife in turn gave her own solemn nod. Once that was over with, they were on to the next area, the washroom. They walked down the hallway and slipped in through the entryway. When they did, the wife tilted her head.
Oh, it's quite small.
There was a large bucket and washboard in the room, and nothing else. It was more than enough space to do laundry in, but what caught her attention was the door at the back. Have a look. The client led his wife through the door. The sight that awaited her was an enormous bath. Before, it was nothing more than a plain room with no stone kiln too large to be used just for washing clothes in. A desolate second kitchen area. Now, the floor was replaced with tile, and at the edge of the room was a large tub filled with warm water. It was angled such that the water trickled smoothly down the drain that had been installed. The room that had formerly been covered in stone was now a stylish bath.
Could this perhaps be a bath?
I should have expected you'd figure it out. You know what a bath is, then?
Oh yes, I had a little experience with them when I lived in the royal palace. But this is the first time I've ever seen one this big before. Is this what you call a hot spring?
It's a little different from a hot spring. She couldn't mask her surprise. The client watched her with a curious expression. You could almost hear his sinister inner voice saying, "I'm looking forward to bathing together. Ha! He just from the look on his face." I put water in it just so I could show you, but normally we'll keep it empty.
Okay, you can teach me how to use it later.
He'd suddenly thrown his arms around her. Apparently, he was overcome with emotion at her words.
Geez, what's this about?
I was worrying about how I could get you to take a bath with me. So, when I heard you say that, I just couldn't help myself.
You were really worried about that? A bath isn't something you do alone, right? The princess is always going in with her attendants. I've even helped her wash up before.
There's a custom in one of the tribes out there where the wife and husband wash each other's bodies. Have you heard of that one?
I haven't. That sounds kind of embarrassing, but I'll give it my best.
Once their conversation was over, they took the stairs and ascended to the second floor. The ceiling had been beautifully restored with bright wooden panels, eliminating all concerns about being dripped on when it rained. The client took his wife straight to the door furthest in. Right now, this is the only room I've remodeled on the second floor. Ah! It's amazing! His wife's eyes widened with surprise as she entered. The most conspicuous thing in the room, of course, was the massive bed wide enough for 3 people to comfortably sleep in. There was only one pillow on it, the client's favorite.
Why such a big bed?
That's obvious, of course. It's so we can really enjoy ourselves when we're alone together.
So that's it. I guess that makes sense. He.
They both wore toothy grins on their faces. And so I introduced Sylphie to our new house, documentary style. She sat on the bed and cuddled with me. She was in a good mood, a big smile on her face. I was glad she liked the place. I wanted to push her down and get to husband and wife business, but there was a little something I wanted to talk about first. Sylphie, it's been approximately 3 weeks since I announced our betrothal. I realize that isn't a long time, but we have taken a bit of a break from discussing it.
Yes?
The reason I was talking so stiffly was because this was a serious conversation. Sylphie had to realize that too because she straightened up. Even though I said we'd get married, to be honest, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I went ahead and bought this house, but honestly, I can't help feeling like I've rushed on ahead.
I don't feel that way at all. I'm really happy with everything you've done. In fact, I'm the one wondering if it's really okay for me to live in such a luxurious place.
Really? I'm glad to hear that you have no issues, but I wish to discuss what happens in the future. The future. When I said that, her face went red, and for some reason, she started fidgeting.
I'm fine with however many you want, but elf blood runs strong through my veins, so it might be difficult to get me pregnant.
Yeah. That was incredibly sexy to hear. This wasn't modern Japan, after all. I'd have been disappointed to hear she wanted to put off having kids for financial reasons even though we just got married. That's right, I was loyal to my instincts. And by that, I meant the natural animal instinct to reproduce. In other words, make babies. Even so, I intended to be understanding about her career. But what are you going to do about your work for Princess Ariel? I didn't know what the princess thought about all of this, but I didn't see how Sylphie could continue her work as a bodyguard if she got pregnant. I supposed I or someone else could fill in on the battlefront, but that wasn't the only aspect of being a bodyguard.
What do you mean?
Wouldn't it be difficult to do both at the same time?
I've already spoken with the princess about that. We plan to stay in this country for the next 2 years at the very least. And even then, it's not as if we'll make tracks for the Asura Kingdom the instant we graduate. We're looking at roughly 5 more years, so,
It seemed Sylphie had no intention of quitting her bodyguard work. The fact that quitting had never even been mentioned spoke volumes about the strength of her bond with Ariel and Luke. I wondered what the old Sylphie, the one who was entirely dependent upon me, would say. Perhaps she'd offer to throw it all aside to follow me. That would make me happy too, but...
Sorry. Now that I think about it, it's unfair to you, isn't it? You've provided me with such a magnificent home, but I won't be able to spend much time in it because of my work with Ariel. I guess I don't really deserve to be your wife, do I?
She lowered her head, face full of sorrow. It wasn't a hard and fast rule here that the man worked while the woman stayed at home. Perhaps because there wasn't quite as much of a social power gap between men and women in this world. Still, it was the norm more often than not.
Am I not good enough after all?
I felt kind of guilty. I'd spent 2 years in abstinence. Once my libido was finally restored, the white-hot emotion that had been bottled up for those 3 years came bursting forth, and the only thought in my head was Sylphie equals someone who will let me have sex with her. I didn't think that was necessarily a bad thing. Sylphie had initiated it after all, even giving me an aphrodisiac and letting me have my way with her even though it was her first time. Even though I was such a sex fiend that even the beast folk were turned off by me. If she'd found me scary, she'd shown no sign of it. When I woke the next morning, she'd looked at me and smiled. If not now, then when? If not Sylphie, then whom? If I hesitated again and she ended up marrying someone else, I was sure I'd regret it for the rest of my life. If she were taken from me, wait, that was right. Sylphie already belonged to me. You're mine, Sylphie.
Yes, I'm yours, Rudy.
So please marry me. Come to think of it, this might be the first time I'd explicitly asked.
Yes.
Her cheeks heated up as she nodded. Then she let out a small sigh of relief. Please don't worry about your work as a bodyguard. I'll take care of the house. You just do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Well, I would like you to sleep with me every few days or so if possible, though.
Huh.
Oops, my sexual desires had come spilling out.
By sleep, do you mean that?
No, only if you want to, of course. If you're not up for it, just let me grope your tiny breasts and we'll be fine.
I'll try my best, okay? I don't want to make you restrained.
Yeah, but don't push yourself either. When you're exhausted, you need to recuperate. If you let me just touch you a little bit, either before we go to bed or after we get up, I'll take care of it myself. My desires were just falling right out my mouth. Then again, there was no point in playing it cool for Sylphie anyway. This was who I was.
Do you like my breasts that much?
I love them.
But Luke said there's nothing appealing about them.
Don't trust anything a young whippersnapper like that says. The younger a guy was, the more obsessed he was with breasts being bigger or smaller. That wasn't the important part, though. It was the heart. Right, you breast-loving hermit?
But my chest isn't much different from yours.
That's not true. Mine are chiseled pectorals, yours are small, beautiful breasts. They're totally different. If you don't believe me, why don't you try touching mine?
Sure, okay.
He puffed his chest out, and Sylphie gently reached over to cop a feel.
You're right, they're completely different. Yours are kind of hard.
Huh.
Whoa.
He flexed his chest, prompting Sylphie to panic and retract her hand. These pectorals belong to you, so you're free to touch them whenever you like.
Mine belong to you too, but keep in mind the time and place when you touch them.
How about now?
But we're having an important conversation right now, aren't we?
Oh yeah, we'd gotten a little off track. Right back to what I wanted to talk about. Let's communicate openly with each other openly when we need something, or when we're dissatisfied with something, okay? That'll keep our married life peaceful.
Yeah, I agree.
And on that note, is there anything you want to tell me now? Sylphie considered it for a moment, then lowered her eyes. With a sad look on her face, she smiled and said,
Just don't suddenly disappear on me, okay?
Yeah, that was right. It was heartbreaking when someone suddenly left. I understand. I won't suddenly disappear. I knew painfully well how much it hurt when someone you cared about suddenly disappeared on you. With that, our important conversation was basically over. There were still probably some things left we needed to talk about and sort out, but for the moment, this was enough. Well then, may I?
Go ahead.
She had a nervous look on her face as she thrust her chest toward me. I reached a hand out to touch them, but stopped myself. Last time I'd gone at her like a beast. This time, I wanted to prioritize being gentle with her over my own desires. So I softly took her in my arms and slowly pushed her down onto the bed.
You're not gonna grope?
That's for morning and night.
Oh, okay.
We stared at each other. Faces close together, I could see my face reflected in her moist eyes. She softly closed them. I patted her head and gave her an awkward kiss. That night, I dragged my lethargic body down to the basement. There was nothing in the underground storage area since we'd just moved in. It was bare, save for a few shelves that had been installed. I walked deeper inside and put my hand on the hidden door that had been restored by the dwarven artisan. Before, it was a noisy door that creaked and groaned when being opened or closed. Despite being called a hidden door, the edges were so dirty you could spot it at a glance. Now, the device that opened and shut the door had new metal put in, with an ample application of oil to ensure it would be soundless. The wallboards for the basement had also been completely restored. No one would have any idea there was a door hidden here. I quietly opened the door. Tucked within was a small shrine of unvarnished wood. It was there, inside an altar constructed of lustrous black stone, that my idol was enshrined. The dusty old research room had been thoroughly cleaned and transformed into a space of divinity. There, in the quiet of night, as everything else slept, I offered a prayer to my God from this new holy land. Chapter 5. Wedding Reception. Preparations. A week had passed since the renovations were completed. Ariel had given Sylphie 7 days off as a gesture of consideration, and I took full advantage of that time to have Sylphie pamper me, and I her in return. We spent romantic nights together, sweet as honey. I wish. That wasn't how it went at all. Now that I was the king of my own kingdom, there were things I needed to do. In this world, it was apparently the norm for newly married couples who just bought their own place to invite close friends over for a meal. It wasn't just a housewarming thing, but something you did specifically if you were getting married and buying a new house. In other words, a wedding reception. Sylphie and I sat on one of the living room couches with our foreheads pressed close. Below us was the subject of our gazes, the list of people to whom we would be sending party invitations. There was also a chart to determine seating. We really do have a diverse group of friends. I would be inviting Eleniles, Zenoba, Julie, Cliff, Linnea, Presena, and Batigati. Then I had to decide whether or not I would invite Genius and Soldat. Sylphie would be inviting Ariel, Luke, and 2 others. Altogether, there would be 11 people, give or take a few. I'd like to have Paul and my family there, but I couldn't invite people who were 1,000,000 miles away. I'd put a letter in the mail informing them of my marriage, but who knew how long it would take it to reach them? We've got royalty, beastman, a demon, a slave, an adventurer, and some of them can't keep their mouths shut. I foresee trouble. Linnea and Persenna still bore Ariel a grudge, and I could very easily imagine sparks flying when they met face to face. If this were a marriage ceremony in my previous world, we could just seat them at opposite ends of the venue to keep them from meeting. But even the biggest rooms in this house were no ballrooms.
You think so? Princess Ariel wouldn't cause a stir in a situation like this.
Still, I wouldn't want her to go home in a sour mood because of something that happened at a party at our house. Perhaps it would be better if we split the party into two, separating the troublemakers.
But Princess Ariel really wants to meet the others, considering some of your friends will hold important positions in the future.
I pictured Ariel getting fired up and putting on her makeup, saying, "This is my chance. There's a lot of sexy men at wedding receptions that you don't normally get to see." No, I knew that wasn't what she was after. She wanted to make connections with the other special students. Ariel was calculating, after all. All right, then, let's invite her with the understanding that she's responsible for managing herself. Which just leaves the problem of seat order. I didn't think we could just let them sit wherever they wanted. It would be difficult to seat them in order of importance, though. What order could we choose that wouldn't offend anyone? Bidigati was a reigning demon king, so he had the most authority. But after that was Ariel, Zenoba, Linnea, and Persenna, a veritable crowd of royalty, or the equivalent thereof. Also, Cliff seemed the type who would complain if we put him at the end of the table. No, wait, despite his personality, he had been taught courtly etiquette. Surprisingly, he might be just fine with it. Plus, as long as we seated Illinois with him, she would cover for us. Julie had the lowest status of them all as a slave, so she'd be seated last. I didn't want to separate her from Zenoba, though. She was still a child and not yet completely fluent in the language. Plus, she was my pupil as well. There had to be something I could do. What sort of status do the princess's attendants have?
They're mid-ranked nobility.
Based on what Sylphie had told me, I assumed they were both women. Figuring out where to seat them was proving difficult. The same could be said for Luke. It was probably best not to put him too far from the princess. I didn't think it was likely since the guests were just my friends. But it would be bad if Ariel somehow wound up assassinated.
Haven't we forgotten someone?
I looked over. Had we forgotten someone? Who could it be? I didn't feel like we had. Unless you meant Miss Goliath?
Oh, that's right. Miss Nana Hoshi. We need to invite her too.
I checked the names and sure enough, Silent 7-Star wasn't among those listed. I'd genuinely forgotten about her. However, I wonder if she'll even come.
I'm sure she will.
I guess we can invite her, at least. I hadn't intended to exclude her, but it did seem like she'd completely shut this world out. After we've done all this preparation, what are we going to do if no one shows up? The Christmas episode from a certain anime came to mind. A character had gone all out and made a cake for the occasion, but then lost it after no one showed up. It was a heart-rending episode.
I can promise you that Princess Ariel and Zenoba will be there at least. Princess Ariel would like to get to know you better, and Zenoba knows it would absolutely destroy your trust if he doesn't come.
In a single breath, Sylphie managed to allay my anxiety. Of course, Ariel would come with her 3 followers, and my 2 pupils, Zenoba and Julie, would also be there. Those 6 would definitely attend. Even if we didn't invite Zenoba, he would probably prostrate himself in front of our gate on the day, begging us to let him take part.
I guess you do worry about these kinds of things after all, huh?
It's not like they particularly bother me. I'm not the type who sweats small stuff like that. I'm a laid-back guy.
I'm sure Linyan and Persenna will come too. Beast folk aren't the type to refuse an invitation from someone of superior status.
Really?
Yeah, and if they don't come, we'll just have to put them in their place again.
Sylphie said that was the way things were done in beast folk custom. Now that I thought about it, Guess might have prostrated himself in front of me because he thought Rudeus might go berserk otherwise. He didn't even complain when Eris kicked him either. I guess Cliff will definitely attend too, since he specifically asked for an invitation.
Personally, I'd like for Ellenelise to come.
Elenialis? I wondered why. I'd never really seen the two of them talk before.
There's a little something I'd like to ask her. It's not really a big deal or anything, though.
I wondered what it was. Maybe she wanted to ask if Elenialis and I had slept together. Well, there was nothing between the two of us, so it didn't bother me if she wanted details. At any rate, we now had a plan going. With over 10 guests attending, we need to serve up quite the meal, so we decided to go shopping. Together, we walked side by side toward the Commerce District.
Before we get groceries, I'd like to buy some new clothes for you, Rudy.
I looked at what I was wearing. I was in my usual gray robe. There was no need for heavy coats to keep warm during the day.
I do like how you look in your robe, but there are people who pay attention to those kinds of things. And if they saw you in something that tattered... well, you know? Or are you just really attached to that robe?
I didn't really put much thought into my wardrobe. When I was an adventurer, I'd seen people who looked far more unkempt. It was true that it would call Sylphie's character into question if I looked disheveled, though. I couldn't shame her that way. I guess so. It was the first robe I bought in the Demon Continent, so I'm attached to it, but it is tacky looking. The only other thing I had was a fur vest. It didn't really fit the look of a magician, so I hadn't worn it in a while. Plus, it was a bit too shabby to wear when I was with Sylphie. I just looked like a bandit. Then let's go to a clothing store. Pick whatever outfit you like.
Thanks. Just leave it to me.
We headed for a ritzy shop, not a place I'd ever set foot in of my own accord. Sylphie had put on her sunglasses and returned to her Fitz persona. Ah, Lord Fitz, good to see you. Thank you for your continued patronage. The owner bowed deeply at Sylphie. It seemed she was a regular, in other words. It was Princess Ariel patronizing the place while disguised as Fitz, a place that catered to Asuran royalty. Could we afford it? This was anxiety-inducing.
Could you show me some robes for magicians?
Certainly. This way, please. Apparently, even fancy stores like this still had robes for magicians. I guess that made sense. Magicians were everywhere, especially in Sharia. This was a city where even the children of nobility became magicians. We were guided to a section with dozens of resplendent garments made of expensive-looking materials. It seemed magicians' robes came in essentially the same shape and style regardless of the retailer, though these did have some delicate embroidery. Excuse me, may I ask what elements you favor? The owner asked. Oh, yes. I guess those would be water and earth. In that case, how about this one here? It's made from the hide of a rainforest lizard from the Great Forest and is quite water-resistant. The designer is Foglin. They designed for Renoa's royal court magicians. If memory served me right, the rainforest lizard didn't have particularly high resistance to water. We had fought them along our travels, but they'd frozen easily when I used my water magic on them. If you prefer earth, this might suit you as well. Made from the hide of a great earthworm from the Begaret continent, it can weather even a sandstorm. The designer is the promising newcomer Floan. They're known for their highly creative use of colors. Plus, it'll make it difficult for monsters to spot you. He held up a desert camouflage-patterned robe as he spoke. I wondered if naming the designer was an essential aspect of these fancy stores. I didn't dislike the camouflage, but something about it wasn't quite right. If I was going to go with this kind of design, I'd prefer winter camouflage instead. I mean Master Fitz. Which do you prefer?
Let's see. How about this one? It's quite like the one you're wearing right now.
She said, pulling out a robe that was an even darker shade of gray than the one I was wearing, almost black. What did they call this color again? Charcoal gray. It was more complicated than my current one, too. There were pockets and black buttons to fasten back the sleeves and a cord that could be used in place of a belt. That one is made from the hide of a lucky rat from the Demon Continent. The designer is Kazra, known for their subdued designs which tend to be popular with the slightly older crowd. A lucky mouse? No, a lucky rat, sir. A superior species to the mucky rat, and the equivalent of a D-class monster. Their coats are splendid, with a strong resistance to poison and acid. Incidentally, I'd seen the latter creature while traveling the demon continent. The mucky rat was 20 inches tall, and the lucky rat was even bigger. I'd been horrified the first time I saw them. A horde of those enormous vermin had infested a warehouse, with a single lucky rat among them. I think I stood in the background, flabbergasted, while Rudeus and Eris made short work of them. That aside, I did like the robe itself. My wife had good taste. What concerned me was the price tag, and now that I took a look at it, yes, it was expensive. You could buy a house on the demon continent with how much this cost. Well, they do say that names represent nature. If lucky is in the name, maybe it'll bring me good luck. I guess we'll go with this. Names represent nature? Pardon my manners, but might I ask for your name? Oh, yes. My name is Rudeus Greyrat. Oh my, you're a member of the Greyrat family? Forgive my rudeness. Master Luke is a treasured patron of our establishment, so I'll give you a discount on your purchase this time. Was this what I thought it was? A way to curry favor with Luke? No, that wasn't it. Maybe he was just trying to encourage us to come here again for our next purchase. Whatever the case, I was glad of the discount.
Does Luke come here often?
Surely you're aware of that, Lord Fitz?
Oh, yes. I mean aside from when he comes with me.
Yes, he's always coming here with different women. While Sylphie continued chatting with the owner, I was pulled aside by one of the shop's staff to have my measurements taken. The robe we looked at had just been for display. They would tailor one to my size. The female staff member used a measuring tape to take my vital statistics, and I wondered if they sold those at a magical item shop. I wanted to try some role play with Sylphie that involved measuring hers. We have the materials on hand, so this will be finished within 3 days. If you'll tell us your address, we can have it delivered. Feeling happy and a bit embarrassed, we shared the address of our new home. After that, we went grocery shopping. First, we purchased spices, then the non-perishables. Thanks to the distribution routes that Nana Hoshi had developed, we were easily able to get our hands on cooking oil as well. We also snagged some frozen fish and vegetables that would keep a while, then ordered some meat that we'd pick up at a later date. Can you cook, Sylphie?
Yeah. I learned from my mom and Miss Lilia. Oh, but I'm not sure if my cooking will suit your tastes.
I'll be sure to tell you it's delicious, even if it's half-burnt charcoal.
Burnt charcoal. Come on. Who do you think I work so hard to learn to cook for?
A good fashion sense, and good at cooking. Come to think of it, she said. She could do laundry and cleaning too. Contrary to her appearance, my wife was quite the capable woman. Miss Salfiette, you're such an ideal wife that I can't help feeling nervous that I'm not worthy of you.
You know you're my ideal husband too.
Well, if there's some part of me that isn't so ideal, I'm all ears. I'll work hard to match your expectations.
In that case, be more assertive. You're a bit too submissive sometimes.
More assertive? And what would happen to me if I did that, and my actions somehow soured the mood of some god passing by? There were people in this world that beat you to death for the crime of looking at them funny. Then again, would I want to be married to a man with no confidence, who did nothing but sit hunched over in the living room, reading the paper? Nope. All right then. I'll act with more confidence from now, I guess. Starting today, I'll be a smug asshole. Huh. Sylphie, make sure to show how much you love me. Don't slack off.
That's not quite what I meant, but sure, I'll do my best.
Oh, my Sylphie is so cute. I just want to smoochy wookie with her, but I restrained myself. Sylphie wasn't a fan of PDA on crowded streets. If I tried to touch her here, she'd definitely scold me. But she wouldn't mind if I put my arm around her shoulder, right? No, maybe I should try holding her hand first? Of course, despite my internal debate, both my hands were currently occupied with shopping bags.
We need to buy some large plates as well. Oh, guess you can just make them.
As long as you're okay with plates made out of stone.
The ones you make don't look like they're made out of stone, so it's fine.
So it was a question of appearance, huh? Well, if she really wanted something pleasing to the eye, then I'd make one and polish it so spectacularly that she could see her reflection in it. The baked type of pottery that Japan was known for didn't seem so popular here. Apparently, they preferred something more posh than the Japanese wabi-sabi aesthetic. Maybe I should really go all out and create something like porcelain, though it would still be gray or brown, whatever I did. Is there anything else we need?
Some tea to serve our guests.
Black tea in teacups, huh? Okay, no problem. Maybe we should buy a rug while we were at it. Might be a good idea to prepare a guest room as well, just in case. Shall we go ahead and buy a couple of things, like a bed and a closet for guests?
Good idea.
Our house was so large that furnishing it was slowly but surely draining my funds. I was glad I hadn't wasted any money on purchasing magical implements and the like. I still had some cash left thanks to the discount I'd gotten on the house, but it was being depleted with each purchase. Maybe I should earn a little extra by hunting down some monsters? No, I couldn't do that. How stupid would it be if I went and got killed on an elimination quest for that trivial a reason? Suddenly, I could kind of understand why Paul had returned to his position as a knight in order to get a steady paycheck.
Rudy, don't worry, I have money coming in from my work with Princess Ariel.
Ugh, sorry. I suppose that if the need ever arose, I could join Soldat's party or someone else's. Wait, no. Adventurers left their houses for days at a time for relatively little pay in return. Maybe I should start looking for a steady job myself. Marriage sure was complicated. That night I invited Sophie to join me in the bath, supposedly to teach her how to use it. My real motivation was to spend some quality time together in the bath. If this were a book, it might be narrated thusly. A pervert was poised to sink his fangs into an adorable young girl. I'm going to do it tonight. I'm going to do it. Just you watch, Father. Wait. Father would be Paul, right? Then I'd rather he not watch. Now then, the etiquette for bathing in our house is a little different from that of the Asuran royal family. First, we moved to the washing area, which doubled as a changing area. There, I told her, she was meant to take her clothes off and put them into one of the baskets. This time I removed them myself, then folded them and tossed them into one of the baskets. Sophie had a petite figure that lacked extra body fat, but she wasn't all bones. While she was thin, she also had muscles. Though her breasts were small, they were still soft and shapely. My breathing turned erratic just looking at her.
Is it necessary for you to undress me?
Nope.
And why are you breathing so heavily?
Because I'm turned on.
And is getting turned on necessary for entering the bath?
Nope. I gave the appropriate answer to each question as I briskly undressed so we could enter the bathing area. There was no shower or mirror, but there was a bucket and a chair. Just for kicks, I'd inscribed Kararin on the bucket, just like the aspirin ad you often saw printed on the buckets at public baths in Japan. You'll be pouring water over your shoulders before you get in the bath. So take a seat here and use this cloth and soap to wash your body.
Hey, Rudy, why is there a hole in the middle of this chair?
To make it easier to wash your body, of course. I moistened the cloth with warm water, sudsed it up, and started washing Sylphie's body. I mainly focused on the back of her ears, the hollow of her collarbone, her back, and other areas that got dirty easily. I used my hand for the softer areas, ones that I couldn't scrub with the cloth. That was why the hole was there.
You haven't been using the cloth for a while now, and you're only focusing on those places. Plus, your thing is pressing up against me.
Oops, my bad. Apparently, my desires had gotten ahead of me. We couldn't have that. This wasn't a part of bathroom etiquette in our house.
If you really can't restrain yourself, well, we can go ahead and do it if you want.
We'll do that after the bath is finished. The bath came first. We had to wash our bodies. Once you're done washing every corner of your body, next is your head. Now close your eyes.
Oh, okay.
Sylphie squeezed her eyes shut. How cute. It made me want to kiss her and pull her toward me for some sexy times, but I shoved the thought to the back of my mind. Letting my guard down even for an instant could be fatal. This whole washing thing sure was hell. Once you've wet your hair with water, use the soap to lather it up. Not just on your head, but all the places hair grows on your body. You probably don't have to wash your hair all that often. Once you're done, make sure to rinse all of it out with warm water. I continued to shampoo her hair as I talked. It was short and easy to clean. I used magic to conjure water and rinse out her hair.
This kind of reminds me of when we first met.
Oh yeah, I'd used warm water to rinse her off back then too. That had been back in Buena Village, around the time I started being able to walk about the town. I'd found Sylphie sobbing as the neighborhood kids bullied her. She'd been delivering her father's lunch when they accosted her and started throwing mud balls at her. So I saved her, then used warm water to wash her off and a warm breeze to dry her. She looked like a boy back then, in part because her hair was short. Ah, it really did bring back memories. I could never have dreamed that that little boy would become my adorable wife. Life sure took you to some unexpected places. Once you're done washing up, next is the bath. Be careful. It's easy to slip. Sylphie followed my instructions and slid herself in, sinking into the water. I kept the water gently warm so we could enjoy a long soak together.
I can feel the warmth seeping into my arms and legs. It feels good.
It seemed it was just right. Very nice. Once I was satisfied that Sylphie was enjoying the bath, I started to wash myself. Honestly, I kind of wished I could soap Sylphie up instead and use her body to wash mine, but I was holding off on that for today. There was no need to do everything at once. I was going to treat her carefully, gently. Suddenly, I realized Sylphie was peeking over at me. I thought maybe she was watching to get an outside perspective of how to wash one's body before getting in the bath, but that didn't seem to be it. She must have been intrigued by the sight of that one body part I had, and she didn't. Curiosity, I assume. Shh. Once I was done washing, I sank into the bath, making sure to rest my hand towel on top of my head. When I submerged myself in the warm water, I could feel my blood flow increase and expand to my chilled arms and legs. Ah, baths were so nice. The very peak of human culture. I used to hate baths in my former life, back when I found washing myself to be a nuisance. Now, I enjoyed the sensation. Living in a snowbound country had taught me just how precious a bath was. By the way, don't put the cloth you washed yourself with into the bath.
Why not?
It'll get the water dirty. Although, since we were family, it didn't really matter. There were also no public baths in this world, so there was no need to follow that rule. As I considered those things, Sylphie nestled against me. She held my hand and rested her damp head on my shoulder.
How long are we supposed to stay in here?
Until you can feel the warmth all the way in the marrow of your bones. I wrapped an arm around her shoulder and pulled her close. When I did, she spun around and positioned her body as if she were sitting on top of me. The two of us were pressed close, facing one another. Sylphie's cherries were rubbing against my chest. Crap, I felt like I wasn't going to be able to hold back anymore. Men were supposed to display endurance, and women were supposed to display love. And by love, I didn't mean love juices.
This is kind of fun.
I looked down at her. I could see down her slender back all the way to her tiny butt, as well as her thin legs kicking at the water's surface. There was movement around my chest and shoulders. Sylphie was clinging to me, burying herself in my neck. From that position, she caressed my body with her hands. Go ahead and stroke me all you like. That's what these muscles are for. A long time ago, I'd looked at Sylphie and thought she would someday be a beautiful man. Instead, she'd grown into an adorable and beautiful woman who surpassed my every expectation. Maybe I was just biased by my feelings for her, but still, this beautiful woman was naked and clinging to me right now. At this rate, we were going to end up doing something that would clog the drains in here. I stroked her back, then moved to her armpits, then to her sides. She was so slender.
Rudy, that tickles.
Her body twisting. The symbol of my desire had been pressing against her for a bit now, But she didn't voice any complaints. She got angry if I touched her when we were walking home, but she let her guard down in this setting. She was at my mercy. Whatever I did, she'd allow. Then she looked up into my eyes. I looked into hers. Our gazes naturally met, and suddenly Sylphie giggled, her expression splitting with a toothy grin.
Rudy, I love you.
She said as she planted a kiss on my cheek. Crap! Ah! I took her into my arms, princess style, and lifted her out of the bath with a splash. I was still in the midst of instructing her on bathing etiquette, but I could always resume that once we finished. Still sopping wet, I made for the second floor and beeline to our bedroom. Chapter 6, Hosting the Wedding Reception. A few days later, we planned to hold the wedding reception in the afternoon since it fell on a holiday. Genius declined our invitation, as did Soldat, on account of being busy with meetings. I figured Batagati would be too busy to come as well, but surprisingly, he was free and indicated he would attend. The other 11 invitations we'd sent out were all accepted. Yes, even Nanahoshi's. On the day of the reception, Sylphie was all fired up from the very moment she woke. This is a wife's job, so just leave it to me, she said as she bustled around the house. We'd prepped an empty room on the second floor for the occasion, by which I meant we'd furnished it with a modest bed, closet, and table, plus a water pitcher in case someone happened to get sick and needed it. Linnea and Persena were the first to show up, right in the midst of our steadily progressing preparations. They had arrived 2 hours early. Don't tell me they got the time wrong, I thought.
It's customary in our culture for those attending to arrive early and bring their own kill. Mew.
That's right! We got here first. A show of our loyalty.
A giant boar sat atop the snow sled they dragged behind them. Apparently it was beast folk tradition, when attending a wedding, to go hunting in the morning and offer their kill to the host. How early one went out to hunt, make a kill, and return with it were all a measure of your respect for the host. Incredible. But what did you plan on doing if you weren't able to hunt anything down?
In that case, we planned to buy something in the markets. Mew. Yeah, we'd use money instead.
Guess that made sense. They were both wearing their school uniforms. That was something I had decided on. There was a vast wealth disparity among the invited guests, so if the rich ones overdid it with their outfits, it would just make the regular attendees feel out of place. Fortunately, everyone participating had their own uniform except Julie, so we bought her one. I bid them relax in the living area until the festivities were ready to begin. Entertaining guests was the husband's job. They'd been outside since this morning and were freezing. They settled down on the couch closest to the fireplace and curled up against each other.
Everything else aside, I never imagined you and Fitz would get married, boss. Mew.
So, Fitz was a girl after all. I wondered about that, based on her smell.
Yeah, Mew. But now it all makes sense, Mew.
The two of them groomed each other's tails as they spoke. We'd shared Fitz's real identity with the invitees, asking that they keep it to themselves for now, though it was inevitable the truth would eventually become public at this point. What makes sense?
That you have a preference for flat chests.
Even though the stench of arousal is just oozing out of you. The reason you didn't attack us was because we're not your type. Mew.
They spoke as if I were some kind of pervert that indiscriminately attacked any woman I saw. Honestly, how rude of them. Maybe I should thoroughly grope them in retaliation. But no, I'd already sated myself with Sylphie the day before. All of my desire rested within her now. Today I was a sage. The next to arrive were, surprisingly, Zenoba and Julie. They came about an hour before the party.
Pardon? I spied an interesting figurine on the way here, and it distracted me. I would have been in trouble if Julie hadn't been with me.
Julie was wearing her uniform as well. It was dwarf-sized and fit her so perfectly, she looked cute as a button.
Grandmaster, thank you for inviting us.
She said as she lifted the edge of her skirt slightly in a polite greeting. Oh, how cute. Zenoba bowed again when I glanced his way. Then, in a deeply respectful tone, he said,
Master Rudeus Greyrat, I am deeply grateful for your invitation.
Wow. Zenoba was being normal. Very good. Then maybe I should follow his example and reply with the same level of sincerity. Zenoba, Your Highness, you have my gratitude for...
Oh, Master. There's no need to show me such courtesy. I know it's just for appearance's sake anyway. I'd much prefer you be rude to me like you usually are.
Oh, okay. Well, then go hang out in that room.
Ha ha ha! Very well. Come then, Julie, let us be off.
What the heck? And there I was, trying to be serious. What a waste, I thought as I prepared more tea. I was still the host and he was still a guest, even if I treated him rudely. While thusly preoccupied, I heard Linnea's and Persenna's boastful voices drifting from the living room. They were bragging about how they'd gotten here first. I could hear the frustration in Zenoba's replies, but I was just glad they were enjoying themselves. Third to arrive was Ariel and her group, 30 minutes before the start of the party. There was Ariel, Luke, and 2 other female students I'd seen somewhere before. So these 2 were the princess's attendants, which meant they were also Sylphie's comrades in battle. I couldn't afford to ignore them.
I am most grateful for your invitation today. Unfortunately, I am a bit unfamiliar with the etiquette of common people, so I pray you will forgive me for any discourtesies,
She said as she bowed. I'd assume Luke or the attendants would be the ones to bow, but perhaps she was trying to be polite. There are guests of many different races gathered here, so please don't worry about etiquette. In fact, I'm more concerned that you'll be the one shown discourtesy.
My thanks. Ladies?
She gave a signal with her eyes, and the 2 attendants came forward. We are Princess Ariel's attendants. I'm Elamoy Bluewolf, and I am Clean Elrond. Their first names aside, their last names were at least easy to remember. A blue wolf and a legendary elf. My name was Greyrat, so perhaps there were many among the Asuran nobility whose names were a combination of a color and an animal. Maybe there was even someone with a name like... What was the other word for donkey again? Oh yes, Maybe someone had the last name Whiteass. Please accept this. The 2 offered me a box wrapped in expensive fabric, a gift to celebrate your wedding. Thank you. This is very thoughtful.
We brought things we thought might be of use to a married couple. Please see for yourself.
At her bidding, I took a peek inside, only to find myself speechless. Nestled within was a familiar bottle of pink liquid and a wooden rod. To put it more bluntly, it was an aphrodisiac and a long dildo. What the heck?
I am sure that as a member of the Greyrat family, you're perfectly capable of satisfying women. But should the need arise, please use these.
Sure. Ariel was completely composed. Maybe this was considered a normal gift? Luke and the other 2 looked unruffled as well. It must be a cultural difference. I guided the 4 of them into the living area. The atmosphere around Linnea and Persenna turned tense as soon as we entered. There was no way they were actually going to start a fight, right? Yes, they were beast folk, but they wouldn't disrupt the celebration they'd been invited to, would they? I gave them both a meaningful look. They seemed to sense what I was thinking.
Nice to see you, Miss Linnea, Miss Persenna. My apologies for the trouble before.
Nice to see you too, Mew. We caused you trouble too, so it's fine.
Ariel greeted them gently, taking a nearby seat. The other 3 remained standing. I shot Zenoba a look, signaling that he should intervene in case anything happened. He nodded sharply, and as if he'd completely misunderstood, got to his feet and bowed toward Ariel.
A pleasure to make your acquaintance, Princess Ariel. I am the 3rd Prince of the Shirone Kingdom and beloved pupil of Master Rudeus Greyrat, Zanoba Shirone.
Pleasure to see you again, Prince Zanoba. I am glad to see you are in good health. I paid you a visit soon after you entered the university. Could it be you've forgotten?
I apologize for my rudeness. It seems that while I've been blessed with super strength, I'm lacking when it comes to intelligence.
Truly? I've heard that you had top grades in your Earth Magic class.
That is entirely thanks to my master's teachings.
I listened in while preparing their tea, shocked at Zenoba's refined social skills. Cliff and Ellen Elise showed up just 10 minutes before the celebration was supposed to begin. Nanahoshi accompanied them. What an unusual combination. I'd expected Nanahoshi to come alone.
She was standing outside your gate, looking flustered. She's an acquaintance of yours, yes?
Yes, of course. This is Miss Silent 7 Star. When I said her name, Cliff looked at her in shock. Apparently they had never met.
So you're the one they call Silent, huh? I'm Cliff. I'm sure you've at least heard of me before, right?
Yes, I have. They say you are amazing. And yes, I'm Silent.
Her speech sounded stilted and unnatural, probably because she was only pretending to know who Cliff was. Cliff seemed to be in a pleasant mood, though, so I wasn't going to say anything.
Pleased to meet you. I am Eleni's Dragon Road. That's an incredible mask.
A pleasure. Your hairstyle is amazing, too.
Watching how she interacted with them made me nervous. Still, she surely wouldn't start anything since she wanted to avoid trouble. Honestly, I hadn't thought she'd come. I'd sent her an invitation just in case, which she'd accepted. But even then, I hadn't thought she would actually attend. She'd just responded, in a voice devoid of emotion, "Marriage? I guess you really are serious about living here in this world." This is rare. Seeing you outside that room.
You're the one who invited me, aren't you?
True enough. Well, just relax today. We made potato chips for you.
Potato chips? You actually made them?
We procured cooking oil quite easily, thanks to you.
That's remarkable.
Not really. All we did was slice a potato thinly, fry it in oil, then cover it in salt. Since the ingredients were from this world, it has a slightly different flavor from the chips we enjoyed in our previous one. Well then, if you'll excuse us. Elenice charged into the living room, dragging Cliff and Nanahoshi along without an ounce of hesitation. As an adventurer of no noble title, she ranked just above Julie in terms of status, but clearly, she didn't care. Granted, notions of status didn't translate smoothly from one race to another. The two of them were their usual selves. Cliff threatening to ruin the mood with his bragging, Elenice smoothing over his behavior. Cliff meant well, but often came across as acerbic. Nanahoshi was generally quiet, but she responded if someone spoke to her. I thought she was a shut-in with communication issues, but it seemed that wasn't the case. After a while, Sylphie came to inform me that preparations were complete. Now we were just waiting on Badigadi. The food would get cold if he was too late. But just as I started to worry, Elenice spoke up.
There's absolutely no way Badigadi will be here soon. Beings who lived thousands of years have no concept of how time passes for the rest of us. You should probably expect him a month from now.
And so, we decided to go ahead and start the party on time. Sorry, Badi. The party was a cocktail-style buffet. We decided to do away with assigned seating, but fortunately, the room was spacious enough that people could move about, even with the table in the middle. We did leave some chairs at the edge of the room in case anyone got tired of standing. The menu was all food that could easily be eaten while standing, and we started by offering everyone a cup of alcohol. Nanahoshi turned down the liquor, so we gave her fruit juice instead. I was in charge of the speech for our toast. Sylphie and I stood beside each other, the center of attention. 11 pairs of eyes gazed expectantly at us. There was nothing unpleasant about their gazes, but I still felt nervous even though I had a speech prepared. Sylphie squeezed my hand. She gave me a toothy grin and whispered,
You can do it.
She makes me want to carry her off to the bedroom right now, I thought.
My Rudeus face is bright red.
Elenice laughed, and for once Cliff actually read the room.
Lise, be quiet.
Okay then, here goes. Ahem. Thank you for making room in your busy schedules to be with us today. Allow me to make this declaration once again. Sylphie and I are...
And now I enter with a bang!
I thought my heart was going to punch right through my chest from surprise. I looked behind me, and there he was. That black body and tall figure, the 6 arms, all stuffed into a school uniform bursting at the seams. The immortal Demon King Badigadi had entered with a bang, through the back door in the kitchen. His arrival left everyone speechless, even Cliff. I, too, had no idea what to say.
Badigadi, you're late.
It's true I am late, but in my tribe, when a demon king attends a party, they must wait for the perfect moment to astonish and disrupt the occasion with their entrance. Such is our way.
You're kidding, right?
Not at all, though Kusarika did make up that particular custom on a whim. So I agree, it's ridiculous.
And yet he still did it? What an irrational person. This is why you guys have been eradicated by the humans so many times.
I even went out of my way to enter through the back door. Be grateful!
You bastard, I started to think, then stopped myself. No, calm down. This is just how he is. You already knew that, didn't you? Ha 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 ha. All right then. Thank you.
No need for thanks. Now then, carry on and marry yourselves before me. Few get to marry in the presence of a demon king. I don't provide those kinds of services after all.
Badigadi said before plunking himself on the ground. We have chairs, I protested inwardly, but many among the demon folk preferred sitting on the floor, so I guessed it was fine. Well then, returning to our previous order of business, thank you for making time in your busy schedules to be with us today. Allow me to make this declaration once again. Sylphie and I are getting married. I realize the two of us are still young and lacking in many aspects, but I hope we will have a fruitful life together. All 12 of you gathered here have been especially close. We've spent less time with some of you than others, but somehow we were all able to get along, and I consider you friends. Should you ever find yourselves in trouble, I hope to be there to support you as your friend. Should you ever experience discord amongst yourselves, I hope you'll remember us and try to be the bigger person and let things go. Oh crap, this speech was way too stiff. They all had questionable looks on their faces. Just then, Badigadi gave me a soft pat on the shoulder.
No need for such formality. You two love each other and you want everyone here to recognize that? Yes?
Oh, yes, exactly. That was it. Okay. Well, how to put it? Sylphie and I will be moving forward with our relationship. I hope you'll be there for us if we need you. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Now let us toast to the future of the young couple.
Cheers! Badigadi raised a wine cup that he'd swiped at some point without me noticing. Everyone joined him by raising theirs. A bit of alcohol was spilled as the party began. Persenna went straight for the boar meat that had still been steaming just moments ago. I wondered if it was conventional for beast folk to first eat the prey they'd caught themselves. No, this was definitely just a Persenna thing. Linnea was by the fireplace munching away at some Nana Hoshiaki, the imitation fried chicken. Nana Hoshi had grabbed a plate of potato chips and retreated to a corner of the room where she was crunching away. Julie suddenly took a seat beside her. Nana Hoshi looked dumbfounded, but Julie ignored her and shoveled chips into her mouth. Just the other day, she'd eaten some for us as a taste tester. She must have been angling for them ever since. Nana Hoshi and Julie. They made an interesting picture side by side. Perhaps thinking the same, Badigadi approached them. Nana Hoshi panicked and whipped out one of her rings. That idiot. She claimed she didn't want trouble, but then guarded her food like a lioness. I noticed Zenoba glancing over at me. I wasn't sure what he wanted, but it seemed he was waiting for Ariel to make her move. And she did soon after, guiding her entourage over to where Sylphie and I stood.
Sylphie, congratulations. Princess Ariel, thank you.
Sylphie gave her usual toothy smile and bowed her head.
So, do Rudeus and this house meet your expectations? They're even more amazing than I'd hoped for. The house even has a bath in it. Oh? Very few personal homes have baths in Asura. I'm envious. Sylphie, you know you can take a year's break from being my bodyguard if you'd like. I'll save that for when we have kids.
Ariel giggled. Sylphie went on to chat with Luke and the princess's attendants, the latter of whose names I'd only just learned today. Apparently they had a strong bond with Sylphie. They seemed close, and the Blue Wolf girl had tears in her eyes. It was almost like watching girls at the track club say goodbye.
Well, I figure you still don't like me, but let's try to get along.
Luke said, holding his hand out to me all of a sudden. Despite what he said, I didn't have any animosity toward him. Well, I was ready to be friendly if he was. Sounds good to me, Luke, sir.
Take good care of Sylphie.
He let go of my hand after that short remark. To be honest, it felt like Luke was the one who didn't like me. What was it exactly? It wasn't exactly jealousy, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Zenoba came over once Ariel had left. It seemed he was paying heed to social hierarchies, which made sense, given that he was royalty.
Once again, Master, I offer my congratulations.
Thank you, Zenoba. He turned towards Sylphie and bowed.
My lady, I honestly thought you were a man. Please forgive me for making such a shameful mistake.
Sylphie hurriedly waved her hand.
Oh, no, please raise your head. You're royalty. You can't be bowing to someone like me.
Someone like you, I deeply respect my master, and you're his wife. Your holiness is second only to God.
But even Rudy mistook me for a man, so it's fine. Okay.
She looked to me for backup. As embarrassing as it was true, so I nodded in agreement. Once Zenoba left, Linnea and Persenna came next.
Is it considered good manners among humans to greet each other in the middle of meals, Mew?
It's bad form.
That was all they said. They didn't even congratulate us, really. I would definitely need to investigate beast folk wedding etiquette beforehand when it came time for these two to get married, though I had no idea if they could even find partners.
But it does make sense for the two of you to get married. It's good when strong people get together. Mew!
That's right. Strong children bring tranquility to the tribe.
In my opinion, it was bad form to speak so candidly in the middle of a meal. Next to approach was Nana Hoshi, who'd managed to get away from Batagati, who'd been doing who knew what since her hair was a mess. I looked in his direction to see him currently having a blast letting Julie ride on his shoulders.
Congratulations!
Thanks. She started to retreat after that short remark, but Sylphie stopped her.
Miss Nana Hoshi, can I ask you something?
What would that be?
You said before that the two of you come from the same place, but what did that mean? Correct me if I'm wrong, but you come from a different world, right?
Sylphie's voice dropped to a whisper in the latter half of her question. Nana Hoshi looked at me as if to ask what I wanted to do. I didn't mind which way she answered. I wasn't trying to hide anything from Sylphie, though she might look at me funny if she found out. It would be tricky to explain.
I misunderstood since he spoke the same language.
Well, that decided it. Last to approach us were Cliff and Ellen Lass. Cliff had us line up, and then he cut a cross-like shape through the air with one hand, offering a simple prayer.
The two of you aren't followers of Millis, but this is the only blessing I know.
I was happy for the sentiment at least. After all, it was extremely common for people to celebrate Christmas, but not partake in Mass. I had a God I believed in, but she wouldn't mind if I accepted the blessings of another religion.
Rudeus, I'm happy for your recovery. You know, you could have told me a little sooner.
That's right. I hadn't told her that my impotence had been cured until now. And if I had told you, you would have made a move on me. Let me see for myself if that's true, etc., etc.
I'd never. I told you before, didn't I? I have no intention of becoming Paul's daughter.
So that was how it was. Maybe I should have told her sooner. Among this lot, she was the one I'd known the longest. Granted, it was only by 6 months or so. Mushoku Tensei Vol10 by Rifujin Namaganote. Cast by RTL Studio. If you are interested in creating your own audio drama like this, please visit rtl.ai and use promotion code RTL to activate your account. Now, enjoy the story.
But then again, if Cliff wasn't with me, I might have entertained the idea of doing it with you once.
I might have felt the same way if I didn't have Sylphie.
Well, that's unfortunate, isn't it? Since it wasn't in the cards for us, let's just continue being friends then.
Yeah, let's keep it that way. Elenilis turned her attention to Sylphie, a gentle expression on her face.
Miss Sophiette, congratulations. I pray for your happiness from the bottom of tears started rolling down Elenialis's cheeks. She continued looking at Sylphie as a sob escaped from her throat.
I was dumbfounded. I had no idea why she was crying all of a sudden. Elenilis reached out to touch Sylphie's cheek with a trembling hand. Then her legs started to shake and gave out from under her. Her face was a complete mess, but she just continued to look at Sylphie.
I'm sorry. I can't believe I'm doing this.
Sylphie had to be shocked, too, or at least I thought she would be, but instead she looked only mildly puzzled, not surprised.
I've been meaning to ask you this for a while, but Miss Elenice, are you perhaps my grandmother?
I wasn't the only one flabbergasted. Cliff and Elenilis looked utterly dumbfounded, too.
Father told me that my grandmother was one of Rudy's father's companions.
Had he really said that? Wait, that made sense, actually. Laws had said he and Paul became friends while he was helping guard the village. Maybe he'd figured out Paul's connection to Elenilis through their conversations, though I doubted Paul knew of it. It was a small world. Now that I thought about it, the wood-carved pendant that Sylphie made me had the same shape as the pendant on Elenilis' sword. In fact, their facial features were similar too. Miss Elenilis, is that really true?
You're mistaken. There's no way your grandmother could be a whore like me.
My father told me it was because of you that he was chased out of the great forest and that people opposed him marrying my mother.
What?
He said you were devastated by guilt and might not reveal who you really were, even if we met.
I would never have guessed Elenilis and Laws had such history, though I could understand why people had opposed his marriage to Sylphie's mother. I'd hesitated too when Cliff asked me to introduce him to Elenilis. I could see how being Elenilis' son might have tarnished Laws' reputation. I? Elenilis broke out into a sob. She tried to say something, but the words wouldn't form. Sylphie looked a bit flustered, as if worried she'd said the wrong thing. Master Cliff?
What is it?
Please take Miss Elenilis to one of the bedrooms on the second floor so she can rest.
You...
Sylphie, how about you continue your conversation with her after she's calmed down?
Oh, okay.
Cliff was pulling Elenilis along by the hand when she looked at me, terrified.
Rudeus, I know I might be a mess, but, Laws was a completely normal boy. And of course his child, Sylphie, is too. So please.
So please what? Don't look at them with prejudice. She really didn't have any faith in me. To be fair, I had been avoiding her lately. Maybe that had caused some misunderstanding. I put my mouth to her ear. Please don't worry. I'm not going to break up with Sylphie because of you.
But?
More importantly, don't you think you should be more concerned about the fact that now you're related to Paul, whom you hate so much?
Rudeus, you really do say some entertaining things sometimes.
I relaxed a little. She probably just needed to calm down a bit. You can take your time and talk to Sylphie, just the two of you, a bit later.
Yes, I appreciate you being so considerate.
After that, Cliff guided Elenilis off and they retreated upstairs. Time to step it up, Cliff. Do a good job comforting her, I thought, but Igati never came over to congratulate us. He set himself in one corner of the room, bellowing out his usual bah-ha-ha laugh, and kept the mood boisterous. I was grateful for his presence. Chapter 7, End of the Wedding Reception. The reception was a success. We didn't seal our promise with a kiss or exchange rings, but spent the whole time eating, drinking, chatting, and having a good time. I appreciated the ease and informality of it all. People broke into groups of 2 or 3 when it was time to go home. The first to bid us goodbye were Linnea and Persenna. Perhaps it was considered good manners among the beast folk not to linger too long.
Well, Mew. Enjoy yourself, boss. Now you really are the boss of the school. I'm looking forward to next semester.
After saying that, the two of them began trudging home through the snow. The second to leave was Nanahoshi, with whom Luke had randomly struck up a conversation. Most of it was him trying to hit on her, though he wasn't being completely transparent about it. He made a concerted effort to talk about food and clothes, topics it seemed Nanahoshi might be interested in. He was good at sounding interested in a topic the other person cared about, even though he was a bit out of his element here. Still, it was educational. Not that I intended to make use of such knowledge. Nanahoshi, on the other hand, made no attempt to disguise how clearly bothered she was by him. She looked at him in annoyance. She sighed in annoyance. In the end, she ran to the bathroom just to escape him. When she reemerged, she came straight over to where I was, looking agitated.
It's about time for me to leave. That one's annoying me.
All right then. I'm sure you're exhausted. Thank you for coming today.
I'll be counting on your help again tomorrow. And one more thing.
What's that?
Sometime in the future, can I use your bath?
Apparently, she'd gotten a look at our bathroom while on the way to the restroom. As a fellow Japanese person, she probably missed baths. Her name was Shizuka, after all. Sure, but you might have Nobita peeking in at you.
Forget I said anything.
No, I'm just joking. Honestly, you can come anytime. Nanahoshi nodded and started to leave. The sun hadn't set yet, but I wondered if she would be safe walking home alone, even though she'd come here herself and had magic items for her own protection.
Escort Master Silent back to her residence, please.
Yes, Princess. While I was hesitating over what to do, the princess moved to send one of her attendants as an escort. I should have expected it of someone with such charisma. However, Nanahoshi stubbornly refused the offer and went home by herself. Next were Zenoba and Julie, then Badigadi. Badigadi, Zenoba, and Ariel had all shared drinks while happily chatting amongst themselves. Since I knew a body's affinity for alcohol, I'd prepared an appropriate amount just to be sure. But it apparently hadn't been enough. Before I knew it, 2 of the 3 wine casks I'd stashed in the basement were empty. I debated sending out for more, but before I could, Zenoba got hammered.
You sure are weak for a blessed child.
Ha ha ha! I'm all.
Master, are you okay?
Tiny Julie was trying to support Zenoba as he stumbled.
He. Maybe you should rest in one of the rooms here.
She hadn't drunk that much herself. Keeping her wits about her was probably part of her training as a high-born lady. Everything she did was poised elegantly, from the way she tipped her cup to the way she laughed. She was probably a bit tipsy, but the faint blush the alcohol had given her just made her more charming.
No, as a pupil and a proud member of the Shironable family, it already brings me shame to be so utterly inebriated in my own master's house. I'll take my leave while I can still walk.
Zenoba came to say his farewells to me. Personally, I'd have been fine with him staying in our guest room. Well, whatever he wanted to do.
Suppose I should be off too. Princess of Asura, stay well.
Yes, Your Highness. I hope you will stay in good health as well.
I don't get sick or injured.
And so, both Zenoba and Badigadi took their leave. I thought for sure they would be the last ones to leave. The reception drew to a close as Ariel and her group prepared to depart. While they were doing that, I decided to check on Elenialis. I went up to the 2nd floor and peeked into the guest room. I was greeted by an exciting display. No, not the sexual kind. Just Elenialis using Cliff's lap as a pillow. Apparently, he was done comforting her and they'd moved on to the lovey-dovey bits. I felt kind of envious. I'd have to do the same with Sylphie later.